Good afternoon, you ray of sunshines. How are you? Oh, it so cracks me up. People are in here. I love it. Thank you so much. I tried to clean my space up today. Scott might come in. I wanted to clean it up. How is everybody? Good? Patty is a saint for doing this. The amount of reading is involved. This is the jurors' excuses. Well, thank you so much for cybersecurity to whoever pointed out. Did I bring it? I thought I brought my jury duty form in, but I don't think I did. I think it's in my truck. I let my driver's or my home address on that. It's public here, so it's an extra step. I helped with scammers, but it does say on the jury duty form not to read newspapers. So I was thinking, I got to take these off. I was thinking newspapers. It's 2024, County. Let me see if my other glasses in here. It's 2024. Don't you think that they should not be reading anything? I mean, a newspaper isn't going to really keep the integrity of the court at this point, is it? I thought that was funny. My good glasses show blue, so I'll wear the cheapies. My cheapies don't show blue. You're looking forward to this. That's so nice. Really, it is. I think this is so funny. I was on radio yesterday for a show and I was trying to describe it. Moonchild came on and watched it. I was just like, it's just so hard to describe what this is like to read this out loud for someone. I think in here, Miss Wee said it's like War and Peace. It is. We still have, how many pages is this? A lot. I took the counter off, so I didn't think about it anymore. It's a ton of reading, but it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, I think this is a big lesson in our civic duty, and it's a big lesson in how to get out of jury duty. It's really simple if you don't want to be on a jury to get off. I mean, that's clear. Just say, I think he's guilty. My favorite response so far is still the lady who said, makes me laugh so hard. She said, well, if he was innocent, he wouldn't be sitting here, would he? Said something to that effect. And that just still cracks me up. She's my favorite one. Oh, that, and then, the second part was a couple of the people, including the real estate broker, who used to be a news guy for WCTV, really read the problems they had almost as if they were reciting the affidavit, the arrest affidavit. So I thought it was funny. Just thought it was all funny. Oh, Chris's birthday. So I don't cook. Okay. I don't create. Like, I can cook, but very basic. But he really loves lobster. So I thought, well, I'll get a couple lobster tails frozen at Sam's and I'll just broil them. It's how hard can it be? But he was so nice about it. He was, at the end of the day, I only worked half day yesterday. At the end of the day, he was like, we could just go out to eat. You don't have to do that. I was like, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. So he just likes Texas Roadhouse. So we went early. We had already had breakfast together. We went to a local breakfast. I don't know if you all have it, but it's called Village Inn. It's very similar to Perkins. So we went there. I read this. I don't have the receipt. The receipt gave us both senior citizen discounts. I didn't correct her. She drops the receipt on the table and she goes, the discount's on here for you. And I was like, what discount? I didn't ask for a discount. So we both had senior discounts. Not one discount. Chris turned 66. 2 discounts. I was like, well, there. Be grateful, Patty. So then we go out to dinner, and they were just so nice. And some lady, I often get stopped about my hair, which is why I have my hair like this, because that way I don't have to approach people. People will come up to me and say, I like your hair, or why do you keep your head shaved? One of the two. And so this girl comes up to me and she's like, I just love it. She goes, I chopped all mine off for the summer. I was like, well, you can grow it back on one side. And she said, your hair, you either look like you could buy someone dinner or choke them out. You rarely have to repeat yourself, do you? And I said, I do have to repeat myself a lot. And I don't choke people, but I get your point. So it is a sassy haircut. It's very sassy. But we had a really nice evening. He didn't want cake. He likes cannoli. So he had already had cannoli in the house. So we just did that. But I told him we'll continue the party over the weekend. He's very sweet about it. I think it's hard for him to age. I think he, in a lot of ways, he struggles with it because I am 10 years younger. And I often remind him of that, but he's been really nice lately. So he's just very supportive of all my endeavors. So I gotta thank him for that. I got something on my nail, but I always thank him for just. I come home when I want. I leave when I want. I do what I want. How good of a wife do I get it pretty easy, pretty easy. So that was his birthday. It was very nice. Very, very nice. Let me go through. Any questions? Patty is a great reader of docs. Oh, thank you. Some people that read aloud butcher the content. Well, I had a goal was to just read the words and not read it as if other people are saying it. Just not in a conversational tone. Just read it, which to me, I'm glad you all enjoy it, but I think this is absolutely hilarious. I think and that's what I was trying to describe to Scott on the radio yesterday, to read how people talk. Okay, yeah, I think it's hilarious because I don't think people realize how they talk. I think until you record yourself for 8 years, you don't really realize how you sound. So, and I've always said, and this is very vain of me, but I love the sound of my own voice. There is no one who likes the sound of their own voice as much as I do. Scott won't listen to himself. I listen to us every Saturday when our show airs, and then I listen to it on Sundays when my show airs. But I have 2 reasons. 1, I appreciate the sound of my voice. I know I have a unique voice. And 2, I can learn from it. So every time I speak on camera or in a recording, I want to hear myself so I can hear myself back. That's the only way I know to get better at what I'm doing. So it's taken me a long time to get better and have confidence when I'm breathing and talking into a camera or a microphone. In the last, 6 months since November, since I started this little channel, it's really been a fascinating learning experience. And I believe I am much better on the radio and better at interviewing, pausing, breathing, so you don't sound loud while you're in the camera. So it's been very nice. I think all around, this has been a very positive experience for me. Just called Charlie. He does love lobster. Well, he's not getting it. Dude, I think he's still in administrative confinement. My friend who works corrections said it could be the rest of his life. They could just keep him there. Texas says, I spent 2 weeks on a trial for a car accident. That was stressful. I can't imagine being on a jury. So I've been reading I've been watching the Young Thug trial. It's so hard to get my head around it. It's the YSL. It's out of Atlanta. It is 62 days. Can you imagine? I can't believe they haven't had a mistrial just because of the length of time. The ineptitude of the judge, the attorneys, everybody involved, that this takes 62 days is outrageous. It's out. If the prosecution believes he's not going to be shown as not guilty. They're insane. Because for 62 days, you can't remember all of that. They just want out of there at this point. Oh, well, thank you very much. Unless a restaurant allows pajamas and bed hair, I ain't going anywhere for breakfast. Oh, well, I've been getting up earlier. I've been getting up at like 6. So my breakfast is like 9. I don't like to eat before 9 or 10, just because I intermittent fast. So thank you. It is sassy here. Pear is sassy. Okay, so any questions about what we've gone over before? Like I'm your teacher? Mm-hmm. No way. A few years ago, Tesco's barred folk from coming into their store dressed in the PJ. So I had to go to Target this morning, and it was because I wore a pair of shoes that they were new and they really hurt my feet. So I was just going to run into Target to get flip-flops to wear today, just something simple. And a woman was walking around in her bra and her pajama pants, and it was a sports bra that had no support. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to watch and see if the men look at her. No one did. No one looked at her. Sad but true. Coffee is your breakfast. Oh, I love breakfast so much. You don't eat breakfast or lunch or camp-based food until afternoon. God, I wish I had that. So I didn't bring it in. I left it at home. I'll have to show you tomorrow. So I get to the radio station, and Scott, he gives me a present, and it's this stuff called colon broom. Can't even say it. Colon broom, and it's strawberry. And he's like, I thought of you. I was like, what? What do you mean you've thought of me? How can you say you've thought of me because of colon broom? But he did. Let me see if I can find a picture. He said, because it'll keep me full all day. I said, cripes almighty, Scott. You have to show me colon bloom. So this is colon bloom. This is what this was my gift from Scott. Thank you, Scott. He said it's strawberry. He said I'll like it, but it'll keep me super thin because I can't take diet pills anymore because of my blood pressure. So they won't let me take them. So whatever. So I have to find other ways to feel satiated. Pajama day at school. Okay, so when I moved to Florida, I could not believe how teachers dressed. They wear jogging pants. Teachers here, in the least in Tallahassee, wear whatever they want at public school. And I was like, why are you doing that? Oh, we want the students to relate to us. No, you don't. You want to show yourself as an authority figure. And no, you don't. But that's what they do here. T-shirts, jeans, whatever. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. It is a colon cleanser. Colon bloom, like a flower, a bloom. Golly. I love breakfast for dinner too. And that fine young lady, Linda, who gave me the maple syrup, that's what we're going to have. Over the weekend, we're going to have breakfast for dinner, and I'm going to eat. I'm going to have the maple syrup. Well, that's fine, but you can't do it every day. I mean, I always just thought you behaved how you dressed. So that's how I dress. I try to dress like I want business. It was colon blow. And that's exactly what I thought of, Mr. C. Colon blow. I was like, this man really gave me colon blow. It was funny stuff. I didn't have it today. I didn't need it. I really tried to stick to intermittent fasting, and I'll have it tomorrow. So, okay, let's read. Are you excited? I'm so excited to see what comes next because why is it on here? Oh, window. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Scrubs are better. I mean, I used to wear scrubs. I wear jeans every day. Every day. Well, not every day. But if there was probably 5 days out of 7, I wear jeans. Patty, I went to Catholic school. I did too. Our vice principal of school was Sister Cress. She didn't wear her habit, but rather a mini skirt and play guitar. If it was hot, she'd buy the class popsicles. Well, aren't you lucky? I had nuns. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and I loved every bit of it. I didn't have a bad experience. And in fact, my typing teacher, who helped me become the #1 typist in Pennsylvania, she is a nun. Her name's Sister Christine. And she sent me a message yesterday. And I was like, this is so sweet that I'm still in contact with my teachers. I love it. How long is Charlie? It's called administrative confinement, Mr. B. And he's in it as long as the jail or prison says he's in it. Administrative confinement. So for some reason, there was some sort of risk to him. And so they put him in there. But when he's in there, you don't get visitors. So my husband's ex, we believe, started a fire. And my husband. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Your typing is awful. Mine is very good. I have to keep my nails like straight across. I can't have rounded fingernails, but all right, so I'm going to read. So the first couple pages is just the court reporter and who was present. Josh Dubin, representing the defendant, Daniel Rashbaum, Catherine Myers, who they worked for. The proceedings. Let me make this just a tad bigger. Okay, then my glasses don't have to be so perfect. The court. All right, do we have our next grouping of jurors that's ready to come up? Court. Clerk. Yes, sir. Court. Okay. Do the parties have anything to raise with the court before we bring in the next grouping? Rashbaum. Judge, just one thing. You offered yesterday the courtroom is wired? Court. Correct. Rashbaum. We might have the ability to hear a tape of the recordings. Court. As far as what was going on in the gallery, if you need to try to obtain it, yes. I mean, to the extent the camera is always running in this courtroom, whatever sound it's picking up, you can certainly request it. Rashbaum. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Court. State. Anything to address? Kappelman. Judge, we would request that Your Honor read the group the burden of proof, presumption of innocence, and probably the right to remain silent. Those seem like things that were coming up in our individual voir dire. Court. I don't have a problem doing that. I was assuming it could hold until we got to group voir dire, but given some of the issues that were raised by the prospective jurors, I certainly believe that's proper. Does the defense wish to be heard as to the reading of those instructions? Dubin. No, Your Honor. I defer to the court. Isn't he generous? Court. Very well. Presumption of innocence, burden of proof, and right to remain silent will be read as part of the introduction that the new grouping of jurors will be given this morning, along with the statement of the case. One thing that I typically go through as well is the actual reading of the indictment or the information, but you all prefer it just to be left to the statement for the case. Dubin. I would just say the statement of the case, and the only thing that I would add is that this is going to be repeated for the jurors that didn't hear this yesterday. Court. The statement of the case. Dubin. Well, no, not the statement of the case, the presumption of innocence. Court. Correct. Dubin. You know. Court. Now, before we begin the group voir dire, dear, believe me, I'm going to read it again just because it's as many times as they can get it in their minds. The defendant is presumed innocent. The state has the burden of proof. He does not have to speak. The better off we'll be as far as getting through the group process. Man, he didn't have to speak, but yet he did. Dubin. I believe you, Your Honor. Court. all right, let's bring them in. Jurors enter the room. Court, everyone can be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Stephen Everett, one of your circuit judges of the Felony Criminal Division here in Leon County. You've been summoned here today as a prospective juror in the case of the state of Florida v. Adelson. This is case 2016 CF 3036B. This is a criminal case. The state has charged Mr. Adelson with the crimes of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and solicitation to commit first-degree murder. You will notice at times during this jury selection process that I will be reading to you. It's not that I do not wish to have a free-flowing conversation with all of our prospective jurors, but rather any explanations that you're to receive concerning the law must be uniform and specific. Is the state ready to select a jury? Kappelman, yes, Your Honor. Court, is the defense ready to proceed? Dubin, we are, Your Honor. Court, and for the record, I'm going to note that Mr. Adelson is present in the courtroom with his counsel. The first thing I'm going to do this morning is go through the qualification process with you. I think you will find that the questions I'm about to ask will be fairly simple. This will also probably go a little bit quicker if I walk down to where you are, so that way I can see your responses and see if anyone has their hand raised. If all of the prospective jurors could please rise and raise your right hands. I'm going to administer the oath to you at this time. Jurors sworn. Court, you will be seated. The series of questions that I'm about to go through with you are based on statutory provisions that would disqualify you from serving as a juror if you cannot answer to the affirmative. If your answer to any of the questions I'm about to pose to you would be no, please raise your hand. Are you at least 18 years of age? Are you a United States citizen? Are you a legal resident of Leon County? Do you possess a driver's license or identification card that's been issued by the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles? Have you been executed an affidavit attesting to your eligibility to serve as a juror? Have you been convicted in any state or federal court, bribery, forgery, perjury, larceny, or any felony, and your civil rights are not restored to you? Are you at the present time under any prosecution for any crime in any state or federal court? With that being said, no hands were raised for the record, and all the jurors are qualified to serve. The next thing I'm going to go through with you are bases on which you can be excused by law. Depending on the scenarios I'm about to read to you, if you fall into any of these categories or believe that you may be excused based on the information I'm about to give you, please raise your right hand as well. Is anyone here a full-time sworn federal, state, or local law enforcement officer or investigative personnel? Is anyone here an expectant mother or a parent that's responsible for the full-time care of a child that's under 6 years of age? Is anyone here 70 years or older? We'll speak with you, ma'am, in a moment. Has anyone performed state jury service in the last year? Is anyone responsible for the full-time care of a person with a physical or mental incapacity who is incapable of caring for themselves, and you being here today would cause a hardship for that individual? Is anyone here a full-time student between the ages of 18 and 21 who is attending either high school, a state university, a private post-secondary educational institution, a Florida college system institution, or career center? Ooh, that's how I can get out. For everyone that raises their hands, if you could form a line here. Yeah, because I'm a full-time student. If the attorneys can return with me to the bench, you can bring the first one up. Please tell us your name. Juror, Edith. Court, let me find you on the chart. Bailiff, 121. Court, all right. I believe you raised your hands in reference to the age 70 or older. Do you wish to be excused? I do. Court, very well. The law permits you to be excused. Have a wonderful day. But let me add, you can stay. It's up to you. Juror, well, if I stayed, could I get a bathroom break every 10 minutes or so. Court, we're going to be calling people in one by one, so there'll be an opportunity to use the restroom if you need it. Juror, then I can stay. It's just court. All right. Juror, when you're 75. Court, please be seated then if you'd like to stay. It's up to you. Juror, okay. Dubin, Your Honor, she said she needed a bathroom break every 10 minutes. Court, oh, every 10. Okay. Bailiff, and she has problems sitting. Court, okay, all right. Let her come back up. Then blank, if you can come back. I think I must have heard you correctly. Not have heard you correctly. Is it every 10 minutes you said that you needed one? Juror, yeah, I go very often. Court, very well, because of how the timing that things would work. We can't take a break every 10 minutes, so you are permitted to leave if you wish to. However, we're going to need to have to go longer than 10 minutes. Juror, well, I can't promise on that. Court, all right, you're excused. Have a wonderful day. Please tell us your name. Let me find you on the chart. 112. All right, court says, which prompt were you responding to when you wish to be excused? Juror, I'm a full-time student at Florida State. Court, okay. Are you between 18 and 21? Juror, I'm 21. Well, that's age discrimination. Court, very well. You meet the criteria to be excused. You may remain if you'd like to, but you can be excused if you wish to leave. Juror, thank you. Court, have a good day. Come on up. Juror, good morning. Court, good morning. Please tell us your name. She's 118. Court, blank. Which grounds were you asking to be excused on? Juror, you had asked 2 questions. It was 1, if you care for someone who is unable to care for their self. I have a disabled sister I care for and a 2-year-old full-time worker. Court, and there's no one else who can assist you with either the child or your sister. Juror, I actually have him in the car where they dropped me off because I came straight from work. Court, all right. Do the attorneys wish to inquire further? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, you're excused. Have a good day. Juror, thank you. Court, please tell us your name. Court, let me find you on the chart. Bailiff, 136. Court, all right. Which ground were you going to be asked to be excused on? Juror, full-time college student, and I'm also working right now, and I have a test coming up next week. Court, which test? Then. Juror, calculus, Rashbaum. Good luck. Kappelman, can you help? Court, I actually could. I used to teach math. Mr. Ward, the joy of learning is going to be your reward. Do the attorneys wish to inquire further? Kappelman, no, sir. I am not shocked at all that that man taught math. Not at all. Court, you're excused, sir. Have a good day. Juror, thank you. Court, please tell us your name. Bailiff, 104. Court, which grounds were you asking to be excused on? Juror, I have 2 little kids that depend on me. It was a struggle for me to get here this morning because of everything. We're operating on 1 car, and my boyfriend uses my car for work. Get a different boyfriend. So it's a financial strain being here today. Court, so you're responsible for children full time. That's what you're saying. Juror, I'm responsible for. Court, or just there's financial issues. Juror, he uses the car for work, roadside assistance, and we're operating on 1 car right now, and it's a struggle just to be here this morning. Court, do the attorneys wish to inquire further? Kappelman, no, sir. Dubin, no, Your Honor. Court, very well. You are excused at this time. Have a good day. Please tell us your name. Court, what are the grounds you're seeking to be excused? Juror, health issues. I don't have a doctor's note. Court, you said you do have a doctor's note. Juror, I do not. Court, if you could briefly explain to me the nature of it. Juror, I have anxiety, and situations like this cause me to get worse. I'm working on it. Court, all right, Mr. Blank. Are you currently employed? Juror, no. Court, are you homebound? Juror, I'm retired, I guess. Court, do the attorneys wish to inquire further? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Defense, no. Dubin, no, sir. Court, all right. I will excuse you at this time. Have a good day. Please tell us your name. Juror says their name. Court, I'm not being rude. I'm trying to find you on the chart. Kappelman, 109. Court, all right. What is the basis you're seeking to be excused? Juror, I'm a single mom, and I have a 17-year-old daughter that tried to commit suicide last week. She was at the hospital. TMH Behavioral Clinic, admitted. She was discharged Monday and she's under mental care right now. Court, so she needs your full-time attention. Juror, yes, sir. Court, do the attorneys wish to inquire? Kappelman, no. Dubin, no. Court, you are excused. Have a good day, ma'am. All right, from here, I'm just going to go through the instructions and give the statement of the case, and then we'll get set back up in the courtroom. The first thing that we're going to do today is to discuss what you may know about this particular case. The case has a fair amount of public publicity, and there was also a related case that took place about a year ago. This process is going to be handled individually because you don't need to know what anyone else may know about this matter. However, before we start the questioning, I'm going to give you some very important instructions. Many of you have cell phones, computers, and other electronic devices. Even though you may not have been selected as a juror, there are some rules that you must follow about using cell phones, electronic devices, and computers from this point moving forward. You must not use your phones or devices to search the internet or to find out anything that is related to this case. Between now and when you have been discharged from your jury duty, you must not provide or receive any information about your jury service to anyone, including your friends, coworkers, and family members. Ooh. You may tell those you need to know where you are that you have been called for jury duty. If you are picked for the jury, you may tell people that you have been picked for a jury and how long it may last. However, you must not give any information about the case itself or that the people involved in this case. You must also warn people not to try to say anything to you or write anything to you about the jury service or this case. This includes face-to-face phone or computer communications. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress that you must not use electronic devices or computers to talk about this case, including tweeting, texting, blogging, emailing, posting information, or a website or chat room or any other means at all. Do not send or accept any messages, including emails or text messages about your jury service. You must not disclose your thoughts about your jury service or ask for any advice on how to decide the case. Further, you must not read or listen to any news accounts about this case until you've been excused. Avoid the newspaper and television broadcasts, particularly the local news stations. Also, avoid social media or any internet news websites. I will now read to you a statement of the case that has been agreed upon by the attorneys. On July 18, 2014, FSU College of Law professor Dan Markel was shot while seated in his car. This happened in the driveway of Markel's home on Trescott Drive in the Benton Hills neighborhood. The killers traveled to Tallahassee from Miami to commit the murder in a rented silver green colored Prius. Defendant, an alleged conspirator in this murder, was the former brother-in-law of Dan Markel and has entered a plea of not guilty. The statement of the case that has just been read to you is not evidence and is not to be considered as evidence or any proof of guilt. You are merely being informed of the accusations that the state has made against the defendant. I am next going to give you some instructions concerning the presumptions of innocent, the burden of proof, and the right to remain silent. During the questioning that will take place individually with the attorneys this morning, you may hear certain terminology such as burden of proof, presumption of innocence, and right to remain silent. It is important that you understand these concepts as we move through the process. I will attempt to explain to you at this time the burden of proof, presumption of innocence, and the right to remain silent by reading the jury instructions that are applicable to each concept. The defendant has entered the plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe the defendant is innocent. The presumption states with the defendant as to each material allegation in the indictment through each stage of the trial, unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crime with which the defendant is charged was committed, and the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty. If you have an abiding conviction of guilt, on the other hand, if, after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, or if having a conviction, it is one which is not stable, but one which wavers and vacillates, then the charge is not proved beyond every reasonable doubt, and you must find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. It is the evidence introduced in this trial, and to it alone, that you are to look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or lack of evidence. If you have a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. If you have no reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. In every crime proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant may not take the stand cannot influence the jury in any manner whatsoever. Before we speak with you individually, I'm going to advise you concerning the questions that are going to be asked by the court in the room that will comprise the individual voir dire. These are basic questions, and if you are thinking about these questions when you are brought back, it will help us go through the process a lot more quickly. The first question will be, what do you think you know about the case? The second question, what sources have you obtained this knowledge from? Third question, based on what you know, do you have an opinion about Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? The fourth question, can you set aside your present knowledge, disregard it, and render a verdict slowly on the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom? Are you capable of being fair and impartial? And the last question, do you have any reason that you cannot serve on this jury for possibly up to 3 weeks? Again, it will save us all a great deal of time if you think about the questions and you are prepared to provide prompt answers when you are called back to discuss them with myself and the attorneys. The last question I'm going to address a little bit more. We expect this process to last possibly through Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And after the jury selection process is over, the trial will actually begin. In total, we expect that these proceedings may last from today, but up to 3 weeks possibly. We understand it's a burden for anyone to serve for that length of time. However, our system of justice cannot work unless we have good people that are willing to do their civic duty and to serve as jurors. Similar to people of military service, we do have to call on our citizens to make serious sacrifices. Jury duty is one of those times. You will probably never be called again to serve for a length of time such as 3 weeks. However, I understand some of you, this may not be possible. To give you more information about what this trial is going to involve, you will not be sequestered if you are selected for the jury. You will go home at the end of the day and you will return the next day. For the most part, we intend to work a regular business day. but on some occasions, it may be necessary to work a little bit longer based on the witness schedule. I'm going to do my best to adhere to a regular schedule, so please give it serious thought if any of you would have a major problem, including a physical issue that would prevent you from giving this case your full attention and serving as a juror for the time period that has already been identified. Please be patient with us in the morning. We will be working as efficiently as we can. The bailiffs, the clerks, and the court administration will be assisting you here in the courtroom. Please follow all instructions from the bailiffs and the clerks. Do not discuss this case while you're waiting or anywhere else until you have been excused. Also, do not listen to or read any media accounts on your phone or anywhere else until you've been excused. It is very important that everyone follows this instruction about not discussing the case while you are waiting. We do not want to have a mistrial, which means to have to start this process entirely over because people are not following the instructions. Bailiffs, if you hear anyone discussing this case, please bring it to my attention immediately, and from there, I'm going to address the issue in a prompt and appropriate way. If the attorneys can please go back to the jury room, we will get started. Please bring back Judge. Kappelman says, Judge, there's one out there that I noticed during the instructions who is visibly melting down in some way. She is in the fourth row back. She's in the middle. She's next to the black guy that got the hairs poofed up, and she's in like an ivory V-neck, black underneath. Maybe we should do her because she was like, court, having some issues. Kappelman, having some kind of issue. Court, okay. Clerk, Your Honor, while that's happening, I have two questions for you. They are wanting to know downstairs. They're confirming that we do not need that panel of 50 coming in the afternoon. Court, well, I can't tell you that quite yet. Clerk, okay, because we're calling in the ones that we called back for 1:30 this afternoon. Court, correct. Clerk, but we'll go ahead and still have the 50 report in as well. Court, yes. Clerk, and the extra people who are downstairs, do you want to just release them or keep them around? Court, keep them for right now. We're going to see what that progress is first this morning. Just remind me about it when we get closer to 11. Juror. Court, Mrs. Blank, if you can take a seat. Ma'am. Blank, when I was giving the instructions and also just preparing the group for what was going to occur this morning, I noticed that you were having a very visceral reaction. If you can tell me what's going on. Stop it. I can't believe what I have to read. Juror, it's personal, but yesterday I had a colonoscopy and I don't feel well. Also, 3 weeks is a very long time for me to be out of my job because I'm the breadwinner from my family. Court, all right. You are still experiencing issues from the colonoscopy? Juror, I'm nauseous. Yes. Court, do the attorneys wish to inquire any further or excuse me, the prospective juror? Dubin, no, Your Honor. Kappelman, no, sir. Court, very well, man. You are excused. Have a good day. Juror, thank you. Very smart of Kappelman. Court, please bring in. Court, all right. Blank. I'm going to go through the 5 questions that I just discussed with the group. What do you know about the case? Juror, I heard a podcast about it a couple years ago. Court, do you remember the name of the podcast or just recall listening to it? Juror, I recall it was on Spotify and I listened to it. I don't remember the name of it. Court, was it Over My Body? Juror, I think so. Court, have you watched any other television programs or reviewed any other news sources about this case? Juror, I have not. That was the only thing I listened to. Court, all right. Based on that podcast and what you learned, did you form an opinion about Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, I did. Court, what is your opinion? Juror, from the podcast, guilty. Court, all right. Is this an opinion that's firmly entrenched for you, or is it something that you're capable of disregarding? Juror, it wasn't firmly entrenched by the podcast. Court, are you capable of disregarding any opinions or prior information that you've learned about the matter? Juror, I think so. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict in this case that will be based solely on the evidence that is presented in the courtroom? Juror, I think so. Court, I know your answer is conversational. However, it is somewhat equivocal. I'm going to need a more firm answer for you. Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from sitting on the jury for up to 3 weeks as a matter of hardship? Juror, not technically. I have the LSAT on November 10th, so I'm studying for that. But if it's fine, if it's within a 9 to like a time frame, I'm already studying after work. So court, okay. State. Kappelman, okay. So you're a prospective law student. Juror, Kappelman, can you understand and accept the importance of not considering a podcast versus evidence that comes in? Juror, yes. Kappelman, in a courtroom, okay. So you think you can set aside what learned or heard and accept that it's not evidence, and the only evidence you can consider in this case will be that what comes into evidence in the courtroom. Juror, yes. Kappelman, thank you. Nothing further. Court, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. How are you? Juror, good. How are you? Dubin, are you a little nervous? Juror, yeah. Dubin, I am too. So I know it's tough being in a room full of strangers. So the only thing that I would hope, and I hope you can understand what a critically important moment this is for Mr. Adelson. So I really want you to think it through and search yourself a little bit. No one is asking for the right answer. It's just how you feel. Juror, Dubin, so, and and he can take it. It's fine. Yeah, he's been through it. He'd rather you be honest than try to say something just because you think it's the right answer. So when totally fine to have an opinion, and I know that in response to the court's question, you said you do have an opinion, and if that's he's guilty, and that's fine. Juror, Dubin, tell me what it was about the podcast that formed the basis of that, for that opinion. Juror, I think was just listening to the podcast, the way they formulated the story of it is what made me feel that he was guilty. But if I'm being completely honest, I listened only to the podcast, not followed up with any parts of the case. So I can't remember specific details of what was pointing him to guilt. Dubin, got it. That's fair. Is it fair to say, though, that your starting point walking in where you begin the case is that he's guilty? If that's your opinion, that's fine. Juror, based on the podcast and prior knowledge, I guess then yes. Dubin, yeah. And it doesn't, I'm not even asking what it's based on. Just the fact that you walk into the case, your first impression is that he's guilty. Is that a fair statement? Juror, that's fair. Yes. Dubin, and I noticed in response to the court's questions, when His Honor asked if you're capable of disregarding it, you said, I think so, and that's fine, because if, in your mind, right? Juror, Dubin, are you? What's the best way to ask you this? Is it fair to say that you are not sure whether you can completely disregard it because it exists in your mind as an opinion right now? Juror, I would say that's correct. Yes. Dubin, I have nothing further. Thank you. Court, all right. Bailiff, you can escort blank out. Court, any motion or argument from the defense? Dubin, yes, Your Honor. I would move to strike for cause. Court, state. Kappelman, no objection. Court, blank is excused. Court, all right. Let's take a break because I have some questions. I have questions. Let me see. Do you all have questions? Let me go through. I'm waiting for the juror to say Charlie's guilty, Donna's guilty, Harvey's guilty, Wendy's guilty. They'll be your hero. Oh my goodness. Everybody smash that like button. That would be really nice if you did. I would really appreciate it. And just a quick minute, because I didn't introduce myself, which is dumb. I have to create a little menu for myself so I don't miss out on these things. I'm Patty Wilson, This is my channel. It's called Patty's Playhouse. I'm the host of Patty's Playhouse, the radio show, which is also we podcast out weekly. And I just started I'm going to mess it up. Patreon. So I put our radio shows on there. It's free of charge. There's no subscription. And I hope you enjoy them. I think they're funny. I think they're funny and informative if you're interested in real estate. So I've always been interested in the Mark Kell trial because I'm from Tallahassee. And so I remember the day that it happened. I remember everything about it. I remember everything about that day. It's so weird that there's certain days in your life that you remember. And I think like a lot of the prospective jurors, they came on who lived here for a very long time. I'm only here since 99 or 2000. I moved here. Is that it's just a memorable day because things like that at that time did not happen. And so you just remember. You remember the police response. You remember that it was close to people we knew because it was kind of in, not Midtown, but close to the center of town. So everyone everybody probably knows someone who lives in Benton. And so you remember and you're like, what happened and who was it? And it wasn't for a couple days. We knew the victim's name. Now in Florida, there's a thing called, I believe it's Marcy's Law, where unless the family discloses the victim's name, you don't even know the victim's name. So we know a lot about this from the beginning because we didn't have a Marcy's Law then. And because we're in Florida, everything is kind of really at your fingertips. It's an amazing state compared to other states when you go to look for information, not only your ancestry, your family tree, whatever that is. There's certain states that makes it easy and there's certain states that don't. Florida is very generous in their information. So this podcast is only like 6 months old. It's a learning curve for me. And I just have fun with it. I'm not trying to leave my job as a broker, a real estate broker, but I do have fun. And the people who sit with me occasionally as I answer questions and comments, it's just a fun time. I think it is. I rarely record a video and just post it. It's typically a live. So thank you for letting me introduce myself. Do follow us on Patreon if you can. If not, I completely understand. Don't worry about it. My question is to all you very smart people. When Dubin is saying to this juror, let me see if I can scroll up to it. I didn't want to lose my... Okay, what line are we on? 23. He says to the juror, instead of saying, this is your belief, he said, it's a feeling. Where is it? Your impression, I think it was up further. And he said, this is how you feel about it. Let me see. It's not showing it. Oh, here it is. No one is asking for the right answer. It's just how you feel. So in sales, because I'm a salesperson first, I don't say the word feel to people that typically haven't said the word feel to me. Usually if you're a feeling person, I'm an empath, so I'm a Pisces. So I say the word feel a lot. But if some people say belief, then I'm a mirror and a matcher. I'll say belief because that's how they understand and that's how they communicate. I try not to say things like feel to Scott because he doesn't. He has no empathy. Scott's my business partner. He has no empathy. And I'm a Pisces and have tons of empathy. So you as a sales, you're trying to mirror and match. You're not being manipulative. It's just you want people to understand what you're saying. So that struck me that Dubin is saying how he feels. Is he saying that because it's a female he's speaking to and he's assuming they're empathetic? Because he has to be smarter than just say feel if they're not a feeling person. He has to be. Or is it a belief? Does he not want to say the word belief because belief is more concrete than a feeling? Feelings kind of dissipate. And I thought, oh my God, he's saying he is not trying. Even though he keeps saying the man is guilty, he keeps repeating the word guilty, which just affirms the feeling that he's guilty, which shocks me. And I keep thinking he's got to be smarter than this in how he speaks. But now I'm thinking maybe he's just not, because he keeps referring and affirming the word guilty. There has to be another way to say it. Say it the first time, guilt or innocence. And then after that, don't say the word again, or say it in a different way. But it just really strikes me that he said, is it just how you feel? Feelings can be fleeting. But if he said it's how you believe, or it's your opinion, opinions can change. Maybe he should have said opinion again. I don't know, but I think Dubin is not what he is cracked up to be. Does anyone here remember the OJ trial? Does anyone here remember the OJ trial? And there was the blonde. Let me see if I can find her. Blonde. There was a Joellen Demetrius was her name. Let me show you her face. This woman right here was OJ's jury consultant. And when Scott and I were discussing this, and we were discussing jury selection and how people make decisions on their houses, so I was just kind of segueing this experience into real estate. And Joellen Demetrius, she didn't leave as soon as the jury was picked, right? There was no, at least the TV world didn't think that OJ had it in the bag, right? We didn't think that, but she stayed. She stayed through that entire trial, and she sat up front behind the defense table. And I would love that transcript. Right now, I would love that transcript of how that jury was selected. If I could get a copy of that, it'd be fantastic. Because I think it is important for people to see, how juries are selected. This is my first time learning. But how the juror consultant speaks to the jury. He's not consistent in how he addresses himself to certain people. He's flat out patronizing. I can dig it, and it's cool to certain members and stereotypes of society. And then if he's doing this, I think he said feel. I'm going to go do a word search and see how many times he says feel later on. But how many times he uses the word feeling instead of belief or opinion. So it just fascinates me. This man is fascinating me. They probably had asked for a change of venue for this, and it was declined. I mean, look, they got 21 people. It's not like they went through 300 people and couldn't get one person. That's different. I was in Florida. You could watch the trial on a gas pump. Yeah. Watch the trial anywhere. But I mean, it's just really interesting how people choose their words that are worth $1 million. So Dubin, by his own admission, charges $1 million, right? I'm $1 million attorney. But if you're $1 million attorney, why are you asking the questions you're asking? And why are you not there during the whole thing to then pick out the juror that might need to be dismissed, that might need this, that might need that? Why weren't you sitting there the whole way? Or were you $2 million if you sat through the whole trial? I mean, it could have charged more. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. The glove fit, right? So from what I was told, the glove fit because he didn't take his arthritis medication. I don't know if that's true, right? And then the latex glove underneath it. But people who watch TV, I mean, all me included, we're not the smartest boats. You watch with TV opinion is very, very influential. If it wasn't influential, then you wouldn't have the news speak about what it does for 90% of the news. Because it's always, we need war, we need more war, why don't we have war? So, of course it's influential. You're not safe. The words the TV newscasters say, safe, smart, intervention, all these keywords are used constantly. Okay, so I'm going to get back to reading, but I thought that was so interesting. I wanted to ask. Talk about the podcast. Next, court. Please take a seat. Juror. Good morning, Your Honor. Court. Good morning. I want to discuss the 5 questions with you now that I discussed with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror. I don't pay a lot of attention to the media and all that. Just what I barely heard. Basically, a gentleman was killed in his driveway. It took a while to figure out about the vehicle and get some suspects. The trial was held, I believe, for the people that actually performed the murder. And from then, they either pled guilty or found guilty. They either pled or found guilty. They are working with the state or somebody testifying against the defendant in this case. Court, all right. The information that you do have, does this come from a local source, the Democrat, or what's the source? Juror, it's what I might have heard on the TV. I don't read the paper. That's for rapping mullet. A lot of people don't like the Democrat. Court, is that all it's worth? Juror, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. Court, how long? How long are we in law enforcement? Juror, 24 years. Court, which agency? Juror, I worked Metro-Dade PD, Opelika, Sweetwater, the state of Florida as an arson investigator for 21 years. Court, based on what you do know about this matter, have you formed an opinion about Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, I wouldn't know enough to form an opinion, don't know the details of the case. Court, okay. Are you capable of setting aside everything that you've learned out of court, disregard that information, and render a verdict that would be based solely on the evidence that's presented to you? Juror, that's how I worked for 24 years, sir. Yes, sir. Court, are you capable of being fair and impartial as a juror? Juror, yes, sir. Court, is there anything that would prevent you as a matter of hardship from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, I'll be 62 in February. 65 in February. And so where I work, that's my only way of getting health insurance. And if you've missed more than X amount, they'll cut you off. Court, so is there not a leave policy or something you could work out with them? Juror, no, because I have to pay for my premium for my health insurance. I could ask, but I don't know what the answer would be. Court, state, do you have any follow-up questions? Kappelman, that would be my only request, is that you follow up on that and let us know if that's going to happen or if there's enough leave too. Juror, I can do that. Kappelman, perform the job. Dubin, court, Dubin, yes, what is it? The morning. Good morning. Took a second. Juror, good morning. Dubin, how are you? Juror, good, sir. Dubin, I represent Mr. Adelson along with my colleague, Dan Rashbaum. Juror, okay. Dubin, it seems from your description that you don't pay a lot of attention to the media, but you do know a fair amount of the case. Juror, I have a photogenic memory, and everything I hear, I retain. Dubin, really? Juror, for the most part, yes, sir. God, I'm jealous. Dubin, wow. All right. So it begs the question. You have a photogenic memory. Please tell me everything that you remember hearing on TV or seeing about this case. Juror, the synopsis of what I passed to the judge. Dubin, so you recall seeing Mr. Adelson's face. Juror, first time I've laid eyes on him. Dubin, didn't you say that you saw? Did you hear his name on TV? Juror, his name I heard, but that was it. Dubin, all right, cool. So what do you recall hearing about his alleged involvement on the TV? Juror, the investigation led to him based on 2 other people they caught and other evidence that they produced. But what the evidence was, I never heard. Dubin, got it. Is that all you recall about in terms of investigation leading to him? Is that what they said on TV? The investigation led to him. Juror, from what I recall, like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to the news media. What I heard is the fleeting stuff that I heard, but I retain a lot. Dubin, got it. Juror, in the years that I was an arson investigator, I had 400 something cases that I called arson. I had made 140 something arrests. I went to trial 4 times. When I went to deposition, the attorneys decided they didn't want me on the witness stand. That's why I only went to trial 4 times out of 100 something arrests. Very detail oriented. I wrote good reports. And when I presented a case, it was well prepared. Dubin, got it. Juror, but for details, I didn't participate in the investigation. I don't know anything other than, like I said, what I hear in passing. Dubin, you know about the North California wildfires and what was found out about arson in those cases? Juror, you mean the arson investigator who said a bunch of those? A bunch of arsons? Dubin, no. The arson investigators that studied the natural wildfires in Northern California. Juror, I didn't do a lot of wildfires, structure fires, but there was an arsonist who was a fire marshal, who set a series of fires along, I think it was the I-5, Interstate 5 corridor. Dubin, so if I say crazy to you, you know what that means. Juror, yes, I've seen crazy. Dubin, all right, maybe after the trial, we'll have a wildfire discussion or an arson discussion. So do you have any opinion about Mr. Adelson from the news media? Juror, no, because I haven't heard enough to make an opinion. See, he said opinion. Okay, as a former law enforcement officer, do you tend to think people that are arrested are most likely guilty? Juror, no, not always. There's probable cause, and there's beyond a reasonable doubt. Dubin, aside from what you heard about Mr. Adelson, did you hear about the alleged manner of the death in the media? Juror, other than he was shot in or around his car. Dubin, got it. I hope you can appreciate why I'm asking the questions, so excuse my prying. Juror, yes, sir. Dubin, all right, you have a great morning. Juror, all right. Court bailiff will see you out. Wow on that. Wow. Oh, really? This guy, as Patty would say, thinks he's that in a bag of chips. I would say that. Thank you, Annie. I would very much say that. Please let him know that he's released, but he's to return by 1:30 this afternoon. Bailiff, 1:30? Court, yeah, please bring in blank next. Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed with the group. What do you know about the case? Juror, honestly, very little. I know it was a murder. A person was shot in the car. It was an FSU professor. His wife was involved. Somehow, I think we all have a different definition of little. And that's really about all I know. When the stories come on, I'm usually making dinner. So the court. So your knowledge of this is local news broadcast. Juror, yes. Court, all right. When is the last time you've either watched a report or read a report related to this case? Juror, I was hoping to catch something last night, but I was traveling. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm not really sure. Court, okay. Based on what you already know, have you formed an opinion concerning Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of disregarding the information that you presently have, and rendering a verdict that based solely on the evidence that will be presented to you? Juror, I would have to. I don't know enough about the case. Court, are you capable of being a fair and impartial juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, I don't think so. I have to coordinate with where I work. I teach at FAMU, and I just have to make sure somebody can cover. I have to check, but probably I'm okay. One of the classes is online, and I was just thinking, if we're not sequestered, I could meet early evening if students need to. Court, any follow-ups from the state? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Thank you. Court, Mr. Dubin? Dubin, yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. How are you? You doing all right? Juror, yeah. Dubin, so what did you learn about the media from Mr. Adelson's alleged involvement? What do you recall? That he is involved? I. Dubin, okay. Juror, I'm serious. I'm a blank slate. I'm really sorry. Dubin, well, why are you apologizing? Juror, well, I need a lot more background because I don't know a lot about the case. Dubin, got it. Do you recall how you informed the basis of your knowledge for the fact that Mr. Adelson was involved? Juror, news reports. Dubin, okay. And do you recall what those reports said about his involvement? Juror, well, I guess, over time, you see him on local television, there was that he was involved. Dubin, got it. So when you said seen him on local television, you've seen his face put up on the local TV news, correct? Juror, yes. Dubin, what if any reaction did you have when you saw his face or heard about his alleged involvement? You can think about it for a minute. I see you searching your memory. Juror, well, if he was charged and he was brought in, then he may have been a part. He was part of it, right? Dubin, got it. And listen, there's no right or wrong answers here. If that's the way you feel, even it's a little bit of a feeling, I hope you can understand why it's just really important that we hear your honest views on it. There's no judgment being formed here. So it's fair to say then that based on the media that you've seen, that you feel like he was a part of it somehow. Juror, there must have been some evidence somewhere that led to that. Yeah. Dubin, okay. So isn't it a fair statement at this point? Because we want to be sure, and this is really one of my only opportunities to speak to you. Isn't it fair to say that the way you start out coming into the case is that you have a feeling, whether it's strong or not, we'll get to in a minute, that he was involved somehow in it and he's been arrested. He's here. Isn't that fair to say? Juror, yes. Yeah. No, yeah. Dubin, okay. Isn't it also fair to say, Mr. Blank, that it might be really difficult for you to just forget that and put that aside because that's the opinion you come in with? Juror, yeah. Well, it's not a strongly held opinion. And Dubin, rather, whether it's strongly held or not, just the fact that you have that opinion and that's your starting point, is that fair? Juror, okay, yeah. Dubin, no, I just want. Juror, I'm not sure where you're going. Dubin, here's where I'm going. I want to be really clear about where I'm going. Juror, okay. Dubin, where I'm going is that I want to make certain, because the stakes are so high for both sides. But my interest is Mr. Adelson, that anyone that has an opinion, whether it's strong or just an inkling, that comes in and starts out having seen some media coverage and says, you know what? I've seen his face on the news. I've heard it. And I think he must have been involved. He's been arrested. Anyone that has that opinion, that's where I'm going. You are trying to figure out if that's what people's opinion are. Because it might be the case that this isn't the right case for you, if that's your sentiment. Juror, okay. Dubin, so that's what I'm asking you. I'm going to ask you just a last time, is it fair to say that that is where you start, even though it's not a strong opinion, your starting point is? Juror, all I know is from what I saw, so that's where my opinion has started. Yes, I saw a story and he's in a courthouse room, and that's where it starts. Dubin, okay, I have nothing further, Your Honor. Court, the bailiff will escort you back out. Thank you. Juror, okay, thank you. Court, any argument? Dubin, yes, I would make a motion to strike for cause. Court, state. Kappelman, object. Dubin, all right, my argument is that blank presented for the record as somewhat timid. He said he knew very little, but once I started to question him about what he saw, he didn't initially reveal that he ever heard Mr. Adelson's name. But when questions were put to him by the court, and when there were a little bit of prodding, he was able to admit that he had seen Mr. Adelson's name, and he conceded that from what he saw in the media, he begins with the opinion that Mr. Adelson was involved. What's concerning to me, Your Honor, is that you asked him if he had an opinion, and he said no. And it turned out when I asked him questions, he did have an opinion. He wanted to minimize the opinion, but it's a different answer that he gave to the court. And his opinion was that Mr. Adelson was somehow involved. He then alluded to the fact that he's here in the courthouse and had been arrested. And I, again, I cite the cop show case, that there is a reasonable doubt as to whether or not he can be fair. There is a reasonable doubt because I asked him on 2 occasions whether you could set it aside, and what his starting point was. When he asked for clarification, I gave it to him. And then he affirmed what he said initially to me, which is that he starts out with the opinion that Mr. Adelson was involved somehow. Court. Response, Ms. Kappelman. He affirmed that he knew very little, which is what he revealed to you initially. I didn't deduce that he trying to hide anything from Your Honor. He revealed very little what he saw other than headlines on the TV. And yeah, I think it's reasonable that all these jurors are going to assume that some of the facts led to Mr. Adelson being arrested in this case, and that it can't be cause for dismissal from the jury pool. Dubin, my 3-second response is that that's not what he said. He said that he did not say certain facts led him to be here. He said that his opinion was that he was also involved somehow. Court. All right, please bring him back. There is one issue that I want to clarify as to whether he can actually abide by the presumption of innocence, and from there I will make a ruling. Court, if you can take a seat again, sir. There's one follow-up question that I wanted to address with you. Juror, okay. Court, the reason that I was asking concerning what you had learned about this case is because Mr. Adelson, like all criminal defendants, he is presumed innocent as of right now. Setting aside everything that you may have learned through the television or anywhere else about this matter, are you capable of applying that presumption to Mr. Adelson, that he is innocent and the state must prove his guilt? Juror, yes. Court, any follow-up questions? Dubin, yes. Court, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Your previous knowledge that the case that you found out through the media, with the deepest respect to the court, I don't know that it's about your capability. I'm just wondering where you are going to put it in your mind. Juror, the stories I saw, I didn't attend very closely. I know that it's kind of weird to say this here, but sometimes there are mistakes made in the legal system. So yeah, innocent people are accused of things. Sometimes they're convicted, sometimes they're not. Dubin, when you look at Mr. Adelson, do you see someone who's presumed innocent? Juror, I will say yes. I would presume you to be innocent until proven guilty. Dubin, what if there's no until? So in other words, what if the state can't meet their burden? Would you have any hesitation going back to the community, having acquitted him and saying, I don't think the state met their burden if they don't meet their burden? Juror, yeah, if the evidence is not there, then it's not there. Dubin, and you have no hesitation in stating, I think the evidence is not there, he's not guilty, if that's the case. Juror, the evidence has to be there to prove that he's guilty. So if it's not there, then it's not guilty. Dubin, thank you for your candor. I hope you can appreciate why I'm asking you these questions. Juror, okay, sure, yeah, it's a serious case. Dubin, I don't mean to pry. Thank you. Court, Ms. Kappelman, do you have anything further questions? Kappelman, no, sir. Court, the bailiff will take you back out. Dubin, Your Honor, I withdraw my application. Court, very well. Dubin, I want to disclose to the court. One moment, please advise Amis to return at 1:30. You can go ahead. Dubin, I just want to advise the court because I forgot. I just want to disclose to the court. I think it would be remiss if I didn't. I represent a number of FAMU students in their law school against the state, the Board of Court Trustees, Dubin, the Board of Governors, the Board of Education, for in their lawsuit as an HBCU and being historically underfunded. The case has received quite a bit of attention here in Tallahassee. I'm the lead attorney in that case, so I know he teaches at FAMU, and I did not want to. I don't know how, if at all, you want to address it. I don't know. But I had oral argument a couple months ago. I'm going to have another oral argument coming up right as this trial starts that is going to make quite a bit of media attention. Honestly, I've never heard of it. I'm just letting you know. Court, very well. State, do you have anything to respond to the proffer from the defense counsel? Kappelman, no, sir. I believe your honor's intent is to inquire whether anyone recognized the attorneys later in this process. So I'm sure that will reveal that if he has any knowledge about Mr. Dubin. Court, that will be one of the questions during the group. Please bring in blank next. Surely a common sense opinion of seeing someone sat in a court on the defense side that there must be some evidence that sat them there. That's not a biased opinion, I know. But do you know there's a ton of cases going on just looking at juror bias? Well, of course they're biased. They're human beings. Human beings are biased. You cannot remove bias from humans. I don't mean to start an argument, but you can't. You can't. I grew up the North. I live in the South. I am still biased to the North. We won the Civil War. We have better food. We have better iced tea. I don't drink sweet tea. We have better sports. Like, we have better things. It's just known, right? I am biased to blank. We have better cheese. We have much better tomatoes. So your bias will never go away. And I guess the defense, like, to me, he's beating a dead horse. He's found a few people that knew nothing. But then when they said they knew nothing, he was like, well, that's scientifically impossible. When are you happy? When are you happy, Dubin? Because you left town. You have another case in Tallahassee. You're representing students. And you left your man hanging. Literally hanging. Unbelievable. I believe I am very attuned as to what happens in this situation. I do. And in the news, I'm living in Tallahassee. You know, it wasn't 60,000 people in November, but it was 50. So I've not heard of this case. I mean, it might have been on the local news. So he should have thought about that before he took the case. If he was worried about now, well, I work at FAMU. How many people ahead of that? The lady who had the Mac food truck, she's serving food for FAMU's homecoming. The judge likely went to FAMU. I don't know this to be true. Let me see. Where did he go to school? Does it say where he went? No, he went to University of Florida and then Louisiana State. So he didn't go to FAMU. So I don't know. I just thought that cart should have been settled before you entered here. Yeah, I see that now. He went to University of Florida and Louisiana State. He is making a mountain out of molehill, but he makes a mountain out of molehill for everything. But I guess that's his job, and he's just trying to, like, I got to think about that. I don't know why. I just don't understand. I don't understand the whole point of that, but here we are. Next. Right? Next. Juror. Yes, sir. Good morning. Court. Good morning. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you as I discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about the case? Juror. Absolutely nothing. Court. Have you ever watched or read any news accounts as it relates to this case? Juror. No. Court. Have you ever seen any television programs? I'm going to take a drink. Heard any podcasts or radio programs about this matter? Juror. No. Court, do you have any opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering an opinion that based solely on the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom? Juror, yes. Court, are you capable of being a fair and impartial juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you from serving on this jury for possibly up to 3 weeks? Juror, other than the fact that work is very understaffed and busy, I do donor research for FSU and they're in the middle of football season and all. But I got personal stuff going on that I had planned, but nothing. Court, how many people work in your department? Juror, there's supposed to be 6. Right now, there's 2. Court, okay. And so they're counting on you to, I guess, work extra or work more than normal. Juror, yeah. We have new leadership at the university, which is true. So they're requiring a lot of research on the donors going to the football games and everything. So we've been kind of working overtime, but they've made arrangements for me to be here today. So I don't know. Court, okay. State, Kappelman, no questions, Your Honor. Defense, Dubin, no, sir. Court, does either party have any argument as to? Kappelman, no, sir. Court, does the defense have any argument? Dubin, do I have any argument on him? No, I don't. Court, please let him know he's to return. Court, next juror comes in. Juror, yes. Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I just discussed with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror, the things that I've read in the paper or heard on the news. Do you want specifics? Court, spill it all. Juror, that Markel and his wife were either divorced or going through a very bad divorce. And what I understood from the paper and the news is that she wanted custody of the children that she had shared at that point, and that the brother had come up with an idea that we could take care of this. That Markel was shot in his automobile in his home, which is about a mile from my house, and that a former girlfriend of the defendant brought in an ex-husband and his friend to kill Markel. Court, all right. Are you a daily reader of the Democrat or do you watch the local news broadcast daily? Juror, daily reader of the Democrat, not the news. Court, and do you read the paper cover to cover? Juror, what little there is. True. Court, so since 2014, then whatever the Democrat has reported on this matter, you've read it or consumed it. Juror, no, from 2016 to May of 2020, March 2016 to May of 2020, my husband and I were living in D.C. Court, okay. Based on what you've learned through the news reports or other sources, have you formed an opinion on Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, pretty much so. Court, what is your opinion? Juror, that he is guilty. Court, is this opinion firmly entrenched or are you capable of disregarding it? Juror, it would be hard to disregard it in the sense that I do not think the other 3 players that I mentioned were capable of creating this plan on their own. Very true. Court, do you believe yourself to be an inappropriate juror as to the case? Juror, I don't know what I would say that I would be inappropriate juror. I would say that I believe I have another extenuating factor that would affect how my decision and my reception of the trial material would be. Court, okay. Do you recall when I read to the entire group of its instruction about the presumption of innocence? Juror, yes. Court, meaning as to Mr. Adelson sits here today, he is not behind, he is not struggling to keep up, he is innocent, and the state must prove his guilt. Are you capable of following that instruction on the law? Juror, I think I could. Court, I'm going to press you because your answer is equivocal. Are you capable or are you not? Juror, I do not think that I could say that he is innocent until evidence proves otherwise. Court, I just need your honest answer. Thank you. State, do you have any follow-up? Kappelman, no, sir. Court, defense. Dubin, no, Your Honor. Court, the bailiff will see you out. Court, all right. I believe she's excused unless someone else has something to raise. Dubin, I do have something else to raise. I would move to strike her for cause. Court, she's excused. Tell her she is released. Dubin, what I would ask, Your Honor, and this is, I'm trying to be so careful with my words because I have such deep respect for the way the court is conducting this process, which I think has been appropriately thorough in light of this being a capital case. There has been a change in the way the questions are being asked today. I didn't object because I think it was appropriate to read the instruction. And please, Your Honor, take this with the deepest compliment. When Your Honor says to a prospective juror, he is innocent, you have a strong presence, Your Honor, not just because you're sitting there in a black robe. You have a very striking way about you. And I think that it is the reason why the jurors came in here today taking your admonition so seriously. My concern is that when you put it to the jurors the way you are, the way you just did to Miss Blank, that it almost comes like a command. He is innocent. He is not behind. I'm concerned that prospective jurors will feel inclined to say yes to you, please you. She didn't, but that's my concern. So I would just ask if, when you're asking the question, again, this is my caveat continues to be, I have such deep respect for the court and the way you're conducting the process. But I think that yesterday was a sobering reminder that the presumption of innocence is hard to come by, particularly in this case. I think more likely than not, people assume guilt. And I think that when you put it to them the way you did, I'm concerned that they'll just give you the answer that they're going to acquiesce in some way. Dubin, yes. Court, state, do you wish to be heard? Kappelman, I don't agree. It's an accurate statement of the law. It was an appropriate segue to the response that she gave you. And I think it's appropriate to inquire further if she's indicating that she can't follow it. So I don't understand what the problem is. The court, if you wish me to give the instruction verbatim, I can do that. But, Dubin, I'd ask that you not give the instruction, Your Honor. What the problem is, let me be clear about what the problem is to the state. The problem is that it's human psychology 101, that when there is an authority figure in a black robe telling somebody what they need to do, they're going to give the answer that they think the courts want to hear. I could certainly submit 36 years worth of social psychology studies. Well, blow my mind on that support this proposition. And he failed so miserably. So I'm just asking that they were given the law of the presumption of innocence. My simple request is just it not to come as an admonition that they must follow it, because I don't think it's just we're disregarding what we saw yesterday and how human beings think. They assume that when someone has been arrested, certainly in a case as sensational as this, that they're guilty. No, they assume it every time they see someone arrested. So when it comes, my simple request is just that we're not sort of tell them this is what you need to do, because I feel like we're not going to get as much candor. So for whatever it's worth, if it's influences for how the court asks, I think I've made my record, and I appreciate you giving me the time to do so. Court, very well. I am definitely not trying to do it in a way that becomes nail meets hammer, but it's very important that they recognize Mr. Adelson is not behind. He is innocent where he sits today. It's on the state to prove it during the trial. I can use a softer tone if you believe that will help. Dubin, higher pitched voice. Court. That is the information that is not only lawful, but in that scenario, she was wobbly on the presumption of innocence. Dubin, yeah, I understand, Your Honor. It's just that you saying he's innocent is oftentimes disconnected with how they feel. And how they feel is that there hasn't been not a single prospective juror, not one in a marathon session that said, I read about the case, and you know what? I think that they've wrongly accused him. Well, if that was your expectation, Dubin, the media, court, there actually was one. Rashbaum, there is one. Dubin, if you're only going to rely on that, I'll repeat what I said. There wasn't one rational person who came in here yesterday and said, boy, I read the media and I think they got the wrong guy. The media it's been an avalanche of accusations and inference about this man's guilt. I think I made my record. I'm not going to belabor the point. Court, you have belabored the point. Please bring in blank. Court, please take a seat. I'm going to go through the 5 questions that I discussed with everyone as a group out there with you. What do you know about the case? Juror, I don't. Court, have you ever read any news reports, watched any television broadcasts, or any podcasts or program about this matter? Juror, no. First time I've heard about it was today. Court, is the statement of this case the only information that you have about this case? Juror, yes. Court, have you formed an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocent? Juror, I say innocent until proven guilty. Court, very well. Are you capable of rendering a verdict in this case that is based solely on the evidence to be presented? Juror, yes. Court, are you capable of serving as a fair and impartial juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that would prevent you as a matter of hardship from serving on this case for up to 3 weeks? Juror, no, sir. State, do you have any follow-up? Kappelman, no, sir. Court, Dubin, no, Your Honor. Court, the bailiff will take you back out. Ma'am, thank you. Court, let her know she's to return at 1:30. You can bring in the next. Court, please take a seat. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that we discussed out there as a group. What do you know about the case? Juror, I really don't know much. Just what you told me in the statement. I've never heard anything about this until now. Court, have you ever watched any news reports, listened to any podcasts, TV program, anything about the case? Juror, I was 9 when it happened, so I really didn't know anything. Court, all right. So the statement of the case is the most information that you've ever heard about this matter. Juror, yes, sir. Court, have you formed an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no, sir. I don't know enough. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict in this case that would be based solely on the evidence? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, yes, sir. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, no, sir. Court, any follow-up from the state? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin, no, Your Honor. The bailiff will see you back out. Thank you. The court, to return at 1:30, bring in blank next. Court, please have a seat. I want to go through the 5 questions with what that you discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, it's been kind of hard not to pick up a few things. My wife has definitely watched all the documentaries, and she said a few things. I recently graduated from FSU Law, and not exactly about the case, but I have. I'm friends with some of the professors, and I've heard them talk about Mr. Markel. So, court, have you personally watched any of the documentaries or listened to the podcast or watched the regular news reporting that goes on in this community? Juror, I'm sure I've seen something. And my wife has that sort of thing on in the background of the house just about all the time. So I'm sure that I have. I'm sure that I've seen some of it. Court, did she pepper you with any opinions on your way in today? Juror, actually, I don't. No, not really. What kind of surprised me, at least to me. Court, based on what you know, and also any discussions you've had with your spouse or other members of the community, do you have an opinion about Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, I don't at this time. Court, all right, as in, you formed any opinion whatsoever or just don't have a strong opinion? Juror, I certainly don't have a strong opinion. I don't know. Perhaps something. I'm not sure. At some time, I don't know. Court, please share with us what opinion would be if there was one at all. Juror, well, I work for a law firm in town. We represent a lot of law enforcement throughout the state. So I would say that I have a general leaning towards law enforcement and their investigation. Court, are you capable of setting aside any knowledge that you have on this matter, setting aside any opinions that you have, disregarding those opinions and knowledge, and rendering a verdict which would be based solely on the evidence? Juror, I believe I am, but I just need to say the firm is currently involved in the representation of Tallahassee Police Department. I am personally involved in the representation of other law enforcement throughout the state. A large part of our firm's business is representing law enforcement. I do feel like this could put me in an awkward position professionally. Court, conflict of interest. Is that a representation related to the use of force or other matters as a civil claim? Juror, it varies. Some issues of force, some civil rights, Some involve detention, that sort of thing. Court, are you capable of being fair and impartial? Juror, I hope so. Court, going to need an answer that's a bit more specific because that's equivocal. Juror, I believe that I can be fair. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from serving on the jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, I'm a new associate in the law firm. I have billable requirements. As I'm sure you're aware of what that entails, it could be a hardship financially and certainly a hardship for me professionally. Court, state, any follow-up. Kappelman, I think as a lawyer, it's fair to say you probably understand my burden of proof, presumption of innocence, and those legal concepts. My phone just went off. Are you in a position with your work where you're going? What is that? Why is that doing that? Sorry about that. Are you in a position with your work where you're going to feel pressure to convict even if I don't meet my burden because of your work and your representation of law enforcement and the possibility of going back to work and having to tell your guys like you acquitted? Juror, I don't think there's always the possibility that, depending on how this case is presented, law enforcement and the investigation itself are just as much on trial as the defendant, and that could put me in a very awkward position with some of my clients moving forward. That's a good Kappelman, so it sounds like the answer is yes, you would feel some pressure to convict. Juror, yes, I might feel some pressure. Yes. Kappelman, thank you. Nothing further. Dubin, I thank you so much for your honesty. That's it. Juror, okay, thank you. And he's an attorney. The court, the bailiff will escort you out. Dubin, Your Honor, I would move to strike for cause. State, Kappelman, no objection. Court, he is excused. Interesting. That's what you didn't know that. So Sonny is saying, I didn't know Dubin represented the students at Florida A&M University in a class action suit because the state were underfunded because they're HBCU. Murder says, I saw that on his CV he put on his website. Annie says, I swear Dubin was looking to get the hell out of Dodge. I think so too. I think so too. I think he knew the gig was up the first day. Charlie's mom, what I wouldn't give to be able to hear what's being said in George's office, especially as we get closer to Donna's trial. Well, you, me, and the about 15,000 million other people. The two, how are you? Murder, you're late. It's okay. Any questions? Did anybody have any questions? If not, I'm just going to take a sip. I had to turn my air goes off right at 7 o'clock, so I had to go. Hold on, let me answer this client real quick. Over the weekend, I'm free. I don't like to keep the clients waiting, you know what I'm saying? Okay, done and dusted. I got that. There's new comments. Wait. I need a little desk fan. No, I just need the AC on. It literally shuts off because usually during the day right now, I don't even need AC. I just open my big metal door and let air flow through. But when I'm on here, I don't want that noise. We won't get up. Okay, so how it works, this jury selection didn't come out until April 12th. And the trial was in November. So that's November, December, January, February, March, April. That was 6 months. So if her trial is in September, it would probably not come out till February. However, there will be people in the jury room. It just won't, not in the jury room, but in the courtroom. It just won't be me. It'll be on... I'll only be there the first day, and it should be televised, right? Sonny, wasn't it televised last year? Some of it? I don't know. But my guess is it's televised on like jury selection. I was watching Oh, I was watching something about that Shannon trial over in Jacksonville, the other hit. The woman had a hit put out on her husband, the Microsoft guy. They're trying to get rid of a state attorney on that one. Oh, it was, but the sound was non-existent. Oh, so that's why reading this is so entertaining. Patty, do you know at this point how many jurors have been accepted? I don't. I knew it was 21. Well, yes, I do know because it was 21. They said at the end of the day yesterday when I was finished, it was 21. So now they have like what, 24, 25? Oh, the written up jury selection. You have to, I guess, assume 6 months. I guess assume it's 6 months. But what I thought about doing, take a break for a couple of days, and maybe do something else, but then go back and read Catherine Magbanua's. I think I'm going to. You saw Patty in the gallery. Oh, wow. I'm Patty. Yeah, I was right. I tried to stay behind someone's head so that no one would see me. And then when they moved their head, I was seen. So there is that. Hello, Audrey. How are you? How are you? Fort Pierce is pretty. But yeah, so as soon as a transcript gets out now, but I would like to go back and if people entertain it, read Catherine's. Only 3 states in which Florida life is life for murder. I've seen 6-year-old murder, 1 sentences, Nevada and Washington. What a brazen thing to do in Florida. I know. Life is life here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this prospective juror. Good morning. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Let me make this bigger. Put my little head down there. I've been following it somewhat. I know the lady's doing life. Lady. Just what I hear on the television. I mean, I tune out a lot of it out, but I do know about it. Yeah. Court. Okay. Do you watch the television news broadcast locally or every day? Juror, every day, every morning, my wife won't let me get away from it. Court, do you want to watch Sports Center instead? Good question. Juror, I want to, but she won't let me get away from it. I'm talking about 5, 5:30, 6, until Nora goes off. Court, well, once we finish with this, we can probably tell you about an app that you can put on your phone if you really want to watch something else. Juror, I go in my man cave. Court, okay. So other than what you've learned through the local news, do you have an opinion at this point as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, being honest. Court, that's what we need from you. Juror, everything what I hear, he's guilty in my opinion. Court, all right. Is this a firm belief for you? Or are you capable of setting aside any opinion that you've already made about this matter? Juror, it has to be a really good case brought to me for me to change my mind. I mean, court, all right. Do you understand that the defendant, he doesn't have to present? Juror, I understand all that. Court, any evidence? He does not have to speak. Juror, yes, I understand all that. Yes. Court, so when you say it would have to be a real good case, what are you referring to? Juror, proving his guilt. I know he does not have to prove his innocence, but the state has to prove his guilt. Yeah. Court, all right. Are you capable of setting aside your knowledge from the news or any other discussions you've had? Disregard those opinions and that knowledge and render a verdict solely based on the evidence in the courtroom. Juror, we all may say that we can, but court, you don't believe you're able to. Juror, no. Everything is always stuck in your mind. We know this. No. Court, state any follow-up questions. Kappelman, so your starting point would be not innocent. Your starting point would be guilty. Juror, yes. Kappelman, okay, thank you. Nothing further. Dubin, court. Dubin, nothing further, Your Honor. Court, bailiff, you may escort Mr. Blank out. There's an app called YouTube TV. This will allow you to watch television wherever you may be. You can watch the highlights in the morning. Have a good day. Dubin, Your Honor, I would note that Blank is Exhibit A to my argument earlier. He said exactly what I was trying to articulate, and he did it a hell of a lot better. These folks come in here and they say they can set it aside, and that's why I said, where are you going to set it? When someone comes in here and says, I think he's guilty, I understand the court has an obligation to follow through, but I think that is certainly a really difficult argument to understand that if somebody starts off guilty, that they can somehow set it aside. We're not as efficient as human beings as the law would like us to be able to set an opinion. There's nowhere to set it. I wish I could lock a bunch of things away in my mind and put them in a box and forget about them. I would be a lot better off and have way less appointments with my therapist. But can you imagine that person? But he was exactly what I was talking about, court. Well, as someone who's unflinchingly honest, it makes our job easier. But until we make the robot smarter, we have to deal with people, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, I understand. Court, please bring in the next prospective juror. Dubin, as you can see, I'm a geek for this stuff. Court, please take a seat. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that were discussed earlier with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror, nothing. Court, have you ever watched any news, broadcast, or the Democrat, seen anything online about the matter? No, said the juror. Court, have you formed any opinion at all as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict in this matter that's based solely on the evidence? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you as a matter of hardship from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, well, I don't drive. I don't have a car. I don't have a driver's license. Court, how do you get around? Using the bus or people take you? What exactly do you do? Juror, my parents drive me around. Court, okay. Do you have reliable transportation then? From them, if you are selected. Juror, yes. State, any follow-ups? No, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, good morning. Is it? Nods head. Dubin, hi, how are you today? Juror, I'm okay. Dubin, do you read the newspaper? Juror, no. Dubin, do you watch the news? Juror, no. Dubin, you haven't heard anything about this case prior to today? Juror, no. Dubin, all right. Thank you for your time. Have a great morning. Court, please escort her back out. Thank you. Kappelman, Judge, will stipulate to dismissing juror number 115. Court, very well. Thank you. Let her know she's excused and released. Bring in. Why'd they dismiss? I'm surprised because she couldn't drive. Huh. Court, Mr. Garcia, please take a seat. I'm going to discuss the 5 questions. Why'd they let that one go? Did I miss something as I was reading this? Why did they let that person go? I don't understand. Maybe there was something they saw. I don't know. It might have been the reason why the person was being driven around. Maybe. I don't know. That was odd. I mean, we can't tell from here. So, okay. Let her know they're being dismissed. Next. Court, Mr. Blank, please take a seat. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, good morning, Your Honor. I know a lot about this case. I live in the Benton Hills neighborhood. I knew Professor Markell personally. This all started, I guess, at about 11:45 on that Friday, and the word quickly spread in the neighborhood because of law enforcement and medical coming to the area. I was contacted by the Tallahassee Democrat, I believe on Sunday, just because somebody, I guess they were trying to just get the neighborhood reaction and that kind of thing. So I've attended parts of the last 2 trials just as a spectator and an interested observer. Court, based on your personal relationship with the deceased, you believe yourself to be an appropriate juror. Juror, I think it would be very hard to be impartial. I got to know Dan mainly because he invited me to speak at his law school sentencing class in 2012 and 13. And after the second time, he told me some of the things going on in his personal life with his divorce and child custody. I did quite a few media interviews about this case. Even to this day, when I drive down Truscott, it's hard not to think about him, and hopefully he didn't suffer, but that he was, shot in his garage, I guess, trapped there because there was a car parked behind him. He couldn't even, if he was conscious, who knows if he was, that he couldn't escape. So, court, state, do you have any follow-up questions? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin, do you have any follow-up? Dubin, just one. Thank you for your honesty. You're an attorney, correct? Juror, yes, sir. Dubin, and it's obvious this case hits close to home, and I'm sorry for your loss. It seems like you were friends with Mr. Markel. Have you discussed the case with any of the jurors downstairs when you were in the assembly room? Juror, no, sir. Dubin, thank you so much. Court, have a good day, sir. Juror, I'm excused. Court, yes. Dang. Would you say he kept it quiet until this point because he said he wanted to get it on the... I think he kept it this quiet so he could confront Markel. He knew he wasn't going to be on the jury. Wow. Yep, that's the guy. So in case you haven't been through this with us in the last few sessions, I have not read this document. So as I'm reading it with you, I'm reading it with you because I haven't read it. So when I'm shocked, it's natural shock. I got to text my husband real quick, but that was shocking. I mean, it's bound to happen, right? It's bound to happen that someone is going to know, have known. I mean, just the statistics alone, someone's going to have known him. So, wow. Good for him. Well, thank you very much. That is very kind of you, Annie. Very, very kind. That is I would have loved to be that's probably, that one's my favorite now. To be in the room with him and say, yeah, I knew Dan. It was tragic. This is horrible. Right in front of him. I bet that guy's waited for that for a very long time. I do too. Miss Wee says, I like how this potential juror got to say in person in front of Charlie what he knew and what he felt and possibly the thoughts of everyone. That is badass. True crime. I'm surprised there hasn't been another neighbor yet. The jurors quote, to this day, when I drive down Truscott, it's hard not to think about the man, and I hope he didn't suffer. And can you imagine Charlie just sitting there going, this is how Charlie sat. Idiot. I bet he was shaking inside too. How many times can you listen to Guilty and be like, I got this. I got a 96. And if you don't know what 96 is the rating that Charlie Adelson, while on a recorded call in the jail cell talking to his mother, said that Daniel Rashbaum, his counsel, said he got a 96 on his testimony where he said he had a double extortion. Now, nowhere in any of this did anyone imply that they would believe anything he said. I mean, it was very few people said they didn't know anything, but they also kept saying he has the right to remain silent. And what did he do? Get in there, speak up. More like minus 96. If you were on trial, I would not want. I mean, now we know why that Montgomery guy who killed his little girl didn't want to be in the courtroom. He didn't want to be in the courtroom because he knew he's a coward. I mean, in that way, I guess he was a coward and Charlie's not a coward, but it's coward just the same. Killing anybody is cowardice. Pure cowardice. All right, I'm going to go back to reading. Okay, so prospective juror, I'm excused from the panel. Court, yes. Dubin, I think for the record, he was excused. Court, unless you had something you needed to address further. Dubin, I just wanted to make sure it was clear on the record. Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you. Blank. Court, excuse me, what do you know about this case? Juror, nothing. Court, have you ever read any Tallahassee Democrat report, watched any local news, seen anything on the internet, anything at all? Juror, not about this case. No, sir. Court, okay. Not about this case, but have you? Juror, very rarely do I watch the news. I never read the Democrat. Court, and specifically nothing related to this case. Juror, correct. Court, have you formed an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no, sir. Court, are you capable of rendering an opinion, a verdict in this matter solely based on that will be presented in the courtroom? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial, juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, the only thing was my father and I run a restaurant together, and I'm there about 95% of the time. So it would be difficult, not impossible, but it would be difficult if I was gone for the period of people. The period of people. Court, do you have any other coworkers or people that work with you, or it's just you and your father running the business? Juror, there are other employees, but he and I are the only ones that can do the manager owner level requirements for the business. Court, any follow-ups from the state? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, any follow-ups from the defense? Dubin, just a couple, Your Honor. Go ahead. What kind of food? It's actually called sliders. I know him. Wait, what was his name? Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Do you have any other coworkers? Okay, so he goes through. I'm just shocked. Like I said, it's actually called Sliders. It's actually in Midtown, and it's right off of Fifth Avenue and Thomasville Road. It's nice. It had just opened. Dubin, okay, so cool. Juror, yes, sir. Dubin, so do you consume your news? Juror, mostly it's on like Instagram, but it's also larger news, Fox News, some Breitbart, but nothing huge. Dubin, have you seen anything on Instagram about the case? Juror, I don't believe so. Not that I can recall, at least. Dubin, anything about FSU professor being killed? Juror, no, sir. Not that I can remember. Dubin, okay. I think that's all I have. Court, the bailiff will escort you back out. So his father owns Savor. I think he owns Savor too. So he's a big restaurateur here in town. Ooh. I did just spill it. I just spilled it. It's called Sliders. It's very good. Everything's named after like Revolutionary War people. Very chill. Very chill in there. The two says, thinking back on the jail calls to Donna, Charlie degrades the quality of tally juries. Imagine if they hadn't had the ability to strike the others who thought he was guilty. No. But young McLeod and his father are very good business people. So, no. They weren't the ones on trial, so there is that. Yeah, it's very nice. So if you come to Tallahassee, Savor is really close to the courthouse. It's at Park and Monroe. And then Sliders is a little further up, and they serve lunch. And it is good. Oh, my spill was delayed. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry my spill was delayed, but I have to put my thoughts together. I'm still surprised. I mean, you don't know who's getting called for jury duty, so just challenge, it's just me. Oh, yeah, you can Google it. It's nice. What are they known for? Sliders. Giovanni, they're known for sliders. Here it is. It's a sandwich revolution. I'll share it with you. They actually advertise on our radio station, full disclosure. So in the mornings, it's like called the Wheel of Food. So you play a game and you get gift certificates. But it's pretty banging. Aren't sliders just flip-flops? No. Here a slider is like this is a slider. Oh, you can't see it. I'm not showing it. Hold on. Why is this not showing? Here you go. So this is a slider, a teeny tiny sandwich. Like you are teeny tiny. You're like Miss Wee Lassie. Right? Scotland, to be precise. Right. So they're tiny, tiny, very expensive sandwiches. Very expensive. You're like, why are they so expensive? I don't know. But they are very good. Like if you're going to have a burger, it's a good one. Okay. There we go. Yay. I'm back. So they'll make chicken sliders and they make fish sliders and they make everything's a slider. You can make pulled pork sliders. They're really good on those Hawaiian little bread, those little tiny breads. You should go. True crime. I have to meet you and we should go to lunch and I'll take you to sliders. It would be fun. Looks too good for a slider. Well, it's the McLeods. It's the McLeods, man. Okay. Okay, so here he goes. Mostly it's on Instagram, but he goes on. I don't believe so. Dubin, anything about a FSU professor being killed? Juror, no, sir. Not that I can remember. Dubin, okay, I think that's all I have. Court, the bailiff will escort you back out. Any argument? No, sir. No. Court, all right. Please let him know he's to return. Court, good morning. Juror, good morning. How are you? Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you at this time. Juror, okay. Court, blank, what do you know about this case? Juror, nothing. Court, have you ever watched any news, local news programs, any other news, or read the Democrat, anything at all? Juror, no. I don't do TV. I don't have a TV. I don't have a subscription to the newspaper. I get news from like CNN, CNBC, and kind of stuff online. Court, so you're relying mostly on the internet or phone apps? Juror, yes. Court, have you ever read, heard, spoken with anyone about this case at all? Juror, no. Court, have you formed an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict that's based solely on the evidence in this case? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you from serving on this jury for possibly up to 3 weeks? Juror, I do have a trip planned the 7th through the 14th, but it's easily moved. Court, okay. State, any follow-up? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin, briefly, Your Honor. Blank, how are you? Juror, good. Dubin, I'm Josh. Here it comes again. I represent Mr. Adelson. Juror, okay. Dubin, how do you get your information about what's going on in the world? Juror, just like I said, online. Every morning, I go to CNN. A friend of mine does have the Democrat, and I look at his Democrat stuff occasionally, but basically online. Dubin, okay, cool. Either on CNN or on the Democrat, did you read anything about or ever see anything about an FSU professor being killed? Juror, I have heard about it. Yes. Dubin, could you just tell me what you heard? Juror, I really don't know. Other than there was somebody had murdered some FSU professor, but I thought it was, family related, but that's about it. Dubin, and there's no problem with you seeing anything. Juror, right. Dubin, so when you said it was a family related? Juror, yes. Dubin, Mr. Adelson is my client. Juror, okay. Dubin, he was related to the ex-wife of the victim. Juror, okay. Dubin, he is the brother of the ex-wife, so the victim was his brother-in-law. Was there anything that you read about the family? When you said it's family related, what do you recall reading about? Juror, I don't really recall much about it because it was several years ago, as far as I knew anything about it. Dubin, got it. When you saw something either on CNN or the Democrat, do you remember Mr. Adelson's name being mentioned? Juror, no. Dubin, do you remember his face? Juror, no, I don't. Dubin, okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you for your honesty. Juror, sure. Dubin, appreciate it. Court, you can escort Miss Blank back out. Court, any argument as to blank? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Dubin, no, Your Honor. Court, she is to return at 1:30. Please bring in post next. Court, blank. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you now that I discussed with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror, nothing. Court, have you ever watched any news, broadcasts, read any newspaper reports, anything on the internet, anything at all? Juror, no. Court, do you have an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict in this matter that's based solely on the evidence? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial, juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you from possibly serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, no. Court, state any follow-ups. Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Dubin, briefly, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Blank. How are you? Juror, good. Dubin, are you nervous? A little nervous. Juror, yeah. Dubin, yeah, it's intimidating. I know. I hate to pry, so I'm just going to go doing my job. I hope you can understand. Juror, yeah. Dubin, how long have you lived in Tallahassee? Juror, 32 years. Dubin, do you read The Democrat? Juror, not often. Dubin, watch the news on TV ever? Juror, not often. Dubin, how about the internet? Juror, sometimes. Dubin, do you recall hearing about this case at all? Juror, the location rings a bell. Yeah, but other than that. Dubin, do you remember reading or hearing anything about a Florida State University professor or law professor being killed? Juror, yes, but I don't know. Yes, but. Dubin, it's okay. Juror, yeah, I don't know. Dubin, if you did. Juror, I'm so nervous. Yes, but there's a lot of things I don't. Yeah, not specifically. I don't know how to answer this. Dubin, there's no right answer. Just, we can take a second to think about it. That's fine. Juror, when it was announced, I was like, oh, that sounds like something I remember. But I don't remember thinking, oh, I remember when that happened. And I remember hearing about that. And I remember reading about that. Or somebody telling me about it. It did not come to mind. Dubin, did Mr. Adelson's name or face ring a bell to you? Juror, no. Dubin, that's it. That's all I got. Sorry to make you nervous if I did. Juror, that's okay. Court, don't be intimidated. Just a teddy bear in a robe. She'll see you out. Court, any argument? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Dubin, there is no argument, but because the state loves it when I make the record. Kappelman, yeah, more long. Dubin, I'm going to make. Kappelman, speeches, please. Dubin, I don't understand how people keep on saying they know nothing about the case, but then when I ask them a couple questions, it turns out they do. The last 2 jurors know something, and I don't know what it is, why they can't just tell us the truth and tell us what they heard or saw, but okay. Court, I'm not sure if it's intent to deceive. Dubin, I don't think. Court, and perhaps the prompting helps them. Dubin, okay, I'm going to continue to prompt. I want to make clear for the record, I'm not suggesting that there's an intent to deceive. It's just how our memories work. Sometimes you need to be stimulated somehow, so to recall things, but I don't know. I guess that's the end of my speech. Rashbaum, I'm more amazed by how many people watch local news. It ain't Miami, Rashbaum. Court, let her know she is to return and bring in blank. Blank? I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed earlier with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror, I've read some numerous articles online through the years. Court, okay, are you a Tallahassee Democrat reader? Juror, only if I see an article pop up online and I can actually access it because it's behind a paywall. Because I don't get the paper. Court, so you don't have a friend that gets you beyond the paywall. Juror, no. Court, well, everyone needs that friend. Do you watch the local news? Juror, I don't. Court, based on what you've learned, either through the internet articles or other means, you have an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence. Juror, I have formed my own opinion by what I've read. Court, what is the opinion? Juror, from what I've read, I think that he's guilty. Court, all right, is that opinion firm for you, or are you capable of disregarding it? Juror, I try to keep an open mind, so I think that I could possibly disregard it. Court, your response is somewhat equivocal. I'm going to need a more firm answer. The defendant is innocent in this matter. He is presumed innocent. Are you capable of disregarding your opinions that you hold right now? Juror, I think I could based on listening to evidence. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, I believe so. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from serving on this jury for possibly 3 weeks? Juror, yes. Court, what's that? Juror, the bank that I work at is involved in a conversion of our database, and I'm only one of 2 people on that conversion team for our loan operations group. And we're down to the last 3 weeks. We've been working on this for months, probably 9 months, and we're going to go live with the conversion on November 10th. So it put a big hardship on the people left in the group. Court, so essentially, if you cannot work, this deadline cannot be met. Juror, I don't know that I would say that, but there would have to be a shift of resources and a lot of extra hours by the few people that would be left to be able. I feel like I'm an important part of that team. So I think it would be a great hardship if I wasn't there for the next 3 weeks. Court, any follow-up? State. Kappelman, not on that, Judge, but on the presumption of innocence. It sounds a little bit like you formed an opinion and you would try to set it aside, or would you listen to the evidence and see if the evidence convinces you otherwise? But what we really need you to do is apply the presumption of innocence. Believe him to be innocent until and unless it's overcome by the evidence in a courtroom, right? We don't convict people based on a podcast or a news article or things from the outside. So if you can't do that, that's okay. We need to know that. If that's something that's going to be sort of in your mind the whole time, let us know. Juror, I don't think that it would be. I don't think that I would hold on to whatever I've come up with by reading news articles. I think I'm fairly good at listening to both sides. Kappelman, so if the evidence turns out not to be what you thought was going to be based on the news, can you disregard that and just make the decision based on the evidence as it is in the courtroom? Juror, I believe that I could. Court, okay, thank you. Mr. Dubin, good morning. How are you today? Juror, I'm good. How are you? Dubin, I'm okay, grinding along. First of all, I appreciate your honesty. I know it's not a normal thing to come into a room with strangers and lay bare your opinions. So there's no right answers here. And I just want you to really think this through for a moment. And if you have to search yourself a little bit, I hope you can understand that this is probably the most important moment in this man's life. You said you've read numerous articles posted online, correct? Juror, well, they've been through the news sources like Fox News or WCTV online. Dubin, I didn't mean to suggest that it was like a Reddit thread or something. Juror, yeah. Dubin, I get it. And I appreciate your candor in saying that you have formed your own opinion at this point that and it's totally fine. He can take it. He's a big boy. You formed an opinion that you can walk in here with that. He's guilty, correct? Juror, based on what I've read, yes. Dubin, regardless of what it's based on. Juror, yeah. Dubin, so your starting point, and it's fine if this is what the state of affairs in blank's mind is at this point, but your starting point, isn't it fair to say, is that he's guilty, right? Juror, that's what I believe at this point. Dubin, and you would have to see something that would show you something otherwise in order for you to think otherwise. Is that a fair statement? Juror, yes. Dubin, I have nothing further, Your Honor. Court, the bailiff will see you out, ma'am. Thank you. Court, all right, please let her know she's excused. Go forth and process data. Bring in next. Am I saying your name correctly? Juror, yes. Court, will go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, honestly, until you gave the synopsis of it, I didn't know who he was. Court, have you ever read any news reports, online reports, watched the local news, anything related to this matter? Juror, I may have when it first happened, years ago, but since then, no, I don't really watch the news. Court, do you watch the news or read the Democrat? Juror, nope. Court, very well. Do you have an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict solely based on the evidence in this case? Juror, I believe I am. Court, your answer is somewhat equivocal. As you stated, it's conversational. However, I believe I am is not exactly a yes or no. Juror, okay. Yes. Sorry, yes. Court, I'm not trying to force you to say yes. Juror, no, I just didn't realize you needed just a yes or a no. Court, can you be fair and impartial, juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that will prevent you from serving on this jury for the next 3 weeks? Juror, no. Court, State, do you have any follow-ups? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Dubin, yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Dubin, that's close. Juror, I don't like correcting people. It's so close. Dubin, well, correct me. I'm used to it. Trust me, in this room, I'm used to it. So you said you saw something or read something when it first happened. Can you tell us a little bit? Juror, I'm from here, so I mean, I did used to watch the news and read the paper. Dubin, understood. Juror, don't really do it anymore. Dubin, totally cool. We don't. Juror, nothing ever good is internet. Dubin, well, I can dig. What you're saying on that, really, Dubin? There's no problem if you read anything or heard anything. Juror, no, I know. Does he have just certain words he pulls out for some of these people? What's the Democrat? It's our local newspaper, the Tallahassee Democrat. Oh my God. He came up with, it's a dig. It's a dig. I can dig that. How does he say it? Dubin, well, I can dig what you're saying on that. There's no problem if you read anything or heard anything. Juror, no, I know. Dubin, yeah. So I'm just curious as to when it first happened, back when you were in the habit of can you imagine him? I have to stop. He is representing the students of FAMU, who are likely, not all, for sure, African American. There are a lot of Caucasians that attend FAMU. A lot. It's an engineering school and it's a pharmacy school. So it is a good mix of everybody. It's not just, even though it's a historically Black college, it's not just Black college. He's going to represent these students. I would love to see a transcript of this man talking to how patronizing he is. Anyway, I digress. I mean, I can dig it. I can dig it. Who is he? Soul Train? I mean, this is not. He got jive. He is jiving with them, right? He is definitely jiving with them. This is how $1 million dude builds rapport. $1 million. And he's going to represent FAMU students digging that. How the hell did they find this one? Oh my God. He hasn't said groovy yet, but I bet it's coming. It's cool, it's cool. He can dig it. Oh, that's right. I wonder what the juror looked like. True Crime says when he said it's all good in the hood. He jiving. Yeah, maybe it is Eminem. I don't know, but this is absolutely hilarious. He just brings it all up. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just curious as to when it first happened, back when you were in the habit of reading the paper, watching the news. Did you see it on the TV or in the Democrat or both? Probably both, the juror says. Honestly, I don't remember. And it was more just who died than it was who got arrested for it. So Markel's dead. I mean, that's all I really remember about it. To be honest, that's why I didn't recognize the name. Dubin, got it. You said you made a reference of a living here. Juror, Dubin, am I correct in inferring that? Juror, I was born here. Dubin, that's not where I was going. That's not where I was going. But when you said, because you talked about reading about the case and you said, I live here, were you meaning that everybody was talking about it? It was a popular subject. Juror, no, just that I mean that he was a Florida State professor, correct? Dubin, yeah. Juror, that's the only reason why I guess I made the comment. It wasn't anything in reference to anything really. Dubin, all right. So when you heard about it and read about it, did you ever speak to anyone else about it? Juror, not that I recall. To be honest, it wasn't anything. I didn't know any of them. It wasn't anything that I would talk about to anybody because it had no bearing on me. Dubin, got it. From what you read, Any sense, even if it was just a little bit, any sense of like? Juror, honestly, I didn't even remember. I mean, I couldn't tell you any of the specifics around it except for that he was murdered. That's it. Dubin, I got nothing else. Juror, I don't remember. Dubin, I appreciate your candor. I hope you understand why I'm asking the questions. Juror, absolutely. Absolutely. Dubin, sorry. Juror, no, you don't have to apologize. It's your job. Dubin, I'm born to apologize. Juror, no need. Court, bailiff, you can take out blank. Court, any arguments? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Dubin, no, sir. Court, all right, please tell her to return. Please bring in the next person. Court, good morning. Juror, good morning. Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you now that I've discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, my previous employment was as an assistant attorney general in criminal appeals. So I learned about the case in that capacity, not in detail, but I do have some knowledge about it. Court, how long have you worked in criminal appeals? This is the attorney general. Juror, yes, sir, here in Leon County for 3 years, and now I'm a senior attorney at the Florida Senate Committee on Criminal Justice. So I also heard, of course, colleagues speaking about it in the regard. Court, have you watched any news coverage, read any Democrat reports, read any online information about the case? Juror, not that I recall. Court, based on what you know through conversation or other means, have you formed an opinion as to the guilt or innocence of Mr. Adelson? Juror, no. Court, are you capable of rendering a verdict in this matter that's based solely on the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom? Juror, yes. Court, are you capable of being a fair and impartial juror? Juror, yes. Court, is there anything that would prevent you from serving on this jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror, other than employment, no, I don't have any personal reasons. Court, all right. Juror, the reason why I say that is because we have committee meetings. We're in committee week and session starts for us in January. So it would be difficult because we are a team of 5 to lose one person for 3 weeks, but it's still doable. Court, is your committee involved in any way with the special session that was just announced? Juror, yes. Court, and when is that slated to kick off? Juror, I really don't know the dates. I believe there are dates for us in November, but I couldn't tell you the exact dates as of now. Court, state any follow-up? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin? Dubin, yeah, I have a few follow-up questions. Good morning. How are you? Juror, doing well. How are you? Dubin, I'm doing well. So when you were, well, let me start from the most recent and go backwards. You're a state attorney for the criminal justice. Isn't that? Are you all involved in when the House Judiciary Committee meets? Do you all liaise with them at all? Juror, on some matters, yes. Dubin, most recently, do you liaise with them on just criminal justice reform matters? Juror, yes. Dubin, okay. How about claims bills? Juror, it depends. We do have some claims bills that come through our committee. So it just depends on what is assigned to us. Dubin, and the claims bills for wrongful conviction cases come through your committee, correct? Juror, yes. Dubin, okay. Sorry, I'm just making a note. And once the claims bills are heard and your committee meets with a committee from the House, you all decide together based on the presentations that the attorneys make. Correct. Juror, yes. Dubin, have you ever sat in one of those claims bill hearings? Juror, yes. Dubin, okay. When was how long have you been there? Juror, a year. So last session would have been my first session. So that would have been the last time that I sat through a meeting. Dubin, and did you hear about one of the cases out of Tampa? Juror, I don't recall. Dubin, a wrongful conviction case though. Juror, we've heard those, but I can't recall. Dubin, okay. Do you recognize me from anything? Juror, no. Dubin, I probably should have started there so far. And your job at the AG, when you were in criminal appeals, you said you heard about the case. Juror, Dubin, can you tell me a little bit about what the recall hearing? Juror, I don't remember. That's over a year ago. I do know the name. I know one of my colleagues attended FSU University College of Law, so just hearing about the death in that capacity, but details as it relates to this case, no. Dubin, and what about from the news? Juror, no, not that I recall. Dubin, so when you saw Mr. Adelson or heard his name, did you recognize it? Juror, no. Dubin, not the name or the face. Juror, not his face, not his name or his face. Dubin, I guess my question is probably an obvious one. Being that you were with the AG's office, do you feel like you might lean more toward the prosecution to start? And I would ask, just take a second and really search yourself, because I hope you can appreciate the significance of a moment to Mr. Adelson. And there's no right or wrong answers here. Just want you to be honest. Juror, I don't think that's difficult for me. I think the difficult for me is being an attorney and having worked in post-conviction litigation, just going through the entire process and being able to set aside things like, oh, that might be an issue going forward, and not. Like, it's almost like telling me to not know. I can't not know. So that is the only difficulty for me. But I don't think I have a preference, or I would be persuaded as to either side. It would just be the judicial process. Court, one moment, Mr. Dubin, and I will allow you to continue from here. If you were selected as a juror and you saw something you were perceived to be an error happening in the trial, would that affect your ability to properly deliberate? Juror, I would not want to be in the position where I would delay the process. I don't know how I would handle that situation. The majority of the cases I handled in appeals were 3.85 so a lot of ineffective assistance of counsel. So, blinking, I would have to be very candid and honest and say it would probably be very difficult for me to not have questions as it relates to that. But those would be questions likely other jurors may not have. So I wouldn't want to bring those up, but I also wouldn't want to sit on them and ponder them. Court, will you understand what deliberation is better than most? Juror, yes. Court, go ahead, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, I was going to write where the judge was going. So, I mean, it's hard when you say you can't. Only you can tell us. Do you think that it would be difficult for you to sit as a juror in this case? Juror, I think it would be difficult for me to sit as a juror in this case. Dubin, okay. Why do you think so? Juror, I think it would be difficult for me, being in a position where I know the law, to sit and not bring, even in deliberation, not have conversation that most people, common people, wouldn't have. So their understanding of reasonable doubt, maybe I have a different understanding of that. So I don't want to impede the process or interfere with it just based on my knowledge that I have. I just think personally, being candid and honest, it would be difficult for me. Dubin, okay, but if the juror, even based on the jury instruction you're asking me, I would still have a difficult time. Dubin, how did you just do that? You just plucked the right out of my brain. Juror, because I, point proven. Dubin, all right, I give up. Court, just tell them Rook captures king. Dubin, tell them what? Court, Rook captures king. Do you have anything else? No. Juror, correct the name. Court, my mistake. Dubin, see what you did to me? Court, state. Do you have anything else for? Koppelman, so your deeper, more accurate understanding of the law is going to somehow impede a successful deliberation process. Juror, I don't think it would. Koppelman, or would it be harder for you? Juror, it would be harder for me, and I would not want to impede the process by asking questions or having a discussion and deliberation that maybe a non-attorney would have. So I wouldn't want to delay the process because I feel like maybe I'm putting more emphasis on something or a piece of evidence that other jurors would not. So I don't know. I've never been selected for jury selection, probably for that reason. I do not know. So in all honesty, I don't see it as a benefit personally. Koppelman, to who? Juror, I feel like to me or to the jury, I think it would be more difficult. Koppelman, okay. Dubin, I just want to ask one question, but why? Court, one last follow-up. 1. Dubin, 1. Rashbaum, better make it good. Dubin, so in your mind, you should never sit as a juror in a criminal case. Juror, I don't think so. Just as in all honesty, no, I don't think so. Blank, I think you do admirable work. I thank you for your honesty. Juror, thank you. Court, bailiff, we'll see you out. Arguments, I don't have an application. Koppelman, no argument, Your Honor. Dubin, but I think that she should stay. Court, that means she's going to return. Please tell her to come back. Court, all right. Blank, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, nothing at all. Court, Have you ever watched any news reports, read internet stories, read the Tallahassee Democrat, read anything or saw anything related to the matter at all? Juror, no, sir. Court, do you have an opinion concerning Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no, sir. Court, if you were selected as a juror, are you capable of rendering a verdict that's based solely on the evidence to be presented in the courtroom? Juror, yes, sir. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, yes, sir. Court, is there anything that's going to prevent you from serving as a juror for possibly up to 3 weeks? Juror, no, sir. Court, state, any follow-up? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, defense. Dubin, none, Your Honor. Court, the bailiff will see you back out. Court, please let me know what he is to return at 1:30 and he can come in next. In reference to your earlier point, Mr. Dubin, when I see the age of birth, that's usually when I don't watch anything. I tend to believe. Juror, good morning, court. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you that I previously discussed with the group earlier. What do you know about this case? Juror, nothing, not too sure. Court, have you ever watched any news reporting or read any internet stories or the Tallahassee Democrat, anything at all as it relates to this matter? Juror, no, I don't believe so. Court, okay. When you say you don't believe so, that encourages judges and attorneys to prod further. Are you absolutely certain on this, or you just don't recall? Juror, I probably can't recall. Court, all right. Have you formed any opinions as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no, I don't think so. Court, again, your answer is somewhat equivocal. Do you have an opinion on this matter that I just asked you, or do not? Or do you not? Juror, no. Court, you were hesitating somewhat. Is it just that you've never thought about the subject matter that I've asked you, or do you have any opinion at all? Court, as to guilt and innocence? Mr. Adelson, juror, no. Court, if you were selected as a juror in this matter, could you render a verdict that's based solely on the evidence to be presented in the courtroom? Juror, yes. Court, I guess I do have one question for you. Do these questions make you nervous, or are you not certain of what I'm asking you? Juror, well, I'm a little worried because I'm in the middle of a process of moving to South Florida, and I have a lot of things I've already reserved and I'm going on, and I'm afraid this might mess up my whole situation. Court, all right. We will get to the hardship aspect of this, but it is important for myself and the attorneys to know that you are someone who is capable of following the law. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Juror, yes. Court, can you be fair and impartial? Juror, I think so. Court, once again, equivocal response. I'm going to need something a little bit more concrete from you. Juror, yes. Court, explain to us what's going on with moving and why you believe you wouldn't be able to serve. Juror, well, I have the beginning of November. I have a job interview and to go look at a place to rent in South Florida. I'm going to live on, all I can think of is I'm going to say, I'm moving to Whale Harbor. Just kidding. So I'm really hoping that doesn't mess anything up. I don't want to have to start over again for looking for my place or the job I already have an interview for. Court, state, do you have any follow-up? Kappelman, no, sir. Court, Mr. Dubin, no. Court, the bailiff will see you back out. Juror, thank you. Kappelman, we have an agreement to strike, Mr. Blank, Your Honor. Court, sounds good to me. Okay, I have another question for y'all. First of all, I'm Patty, and I'm reading a transcript from the jury selection for Charlie Adelson. We're at 2.5 hours. I don't know how many pages I've left because, let me see. I went to print this. No, I don't know. It's 356 pages, but, we're page 106. I just found it. So, what is it about answering sure and instead of yes or no? It has been, I wonder if that's more Southern thing. I'm going to have to do some research on that because it just fascinates me how many people cannot say yes or no. And he has to go back and say, I need confirmation. Doesn't it? I'm going to have to take a look. Versus sure or Is it just our vernacular? Is it just the way Americans speak? Miss Wee Lassie, if you're still on here, I'm asking you. I'm asking for anyone who does not live in the South. Is it normal for people to say sure and Or is it normal where you live for people to say yes and no? I really want to know. Does anyone know? Because the number of people that really have a very difficult time are just saying yes or no. Yes or no. Do you think you can be fair and impartial? Yes or no? Up north, we say yeah times 2. Oh, do you? You say yeah, yeah? From UK trials, there are lots of nodding and shaking heads. I think it's nerves due to the non-conversational style of questioning. Fair play. That's fair. You think it depends on who's doing talking. That's not Southern in your opinion. If I heard more yes, ma'am, or sir, that's Southern. That's fair. That's fair. There's so much and they must be like, I can't believe I got stuck in this room with these people, right? I can't believe I'm sitting here and that's the guy across from me. Because I asked Scott yesterday, when I got picked twice for jury selection. Once was a DUI case. I was actually on the panel. I don't know the year. It was several years ago. And the other was jury selection. It's the one where I said, the guy said, would you give up your driver's license for $10,000? And I was quickly dismissed. But they were all in public. So in this case, and I asked Scott was on, my business partner was on a federal jury last year, and his was public, like public in the jury, in the courtroom public. The questions were asked. But for this, they're taking them back into a jury room and to see the defendant close up. And I wonder if that makes a difference rather than being here and you just see the guy. So in my case, I could see the guy and I'm in the panel. What's that? Is it in that case, the defense side was closer to the jury. It was probably 15, 20 feet away. So does that make a difference when you're 20 feet away from a defendant or when you're like at the same table in the jury room? Because there's only one table in the jury room. It's fascinating to me. I think people say sure when they doubt person questioning. I use sure when I'm annoyed. Oh, good to know. Good to know. In Germany, they say yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, they would say yeah, yeah, right? In Washington state, the only nines who dayman are state patrol when pulling you over. In South, they refer to little boys as gentlemen, which threw me for a loop. Interesting. That's interesting. I'm going to answer this client's text again. Hold on. She said, I'll be out of town. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Every girl I ever dated. Sure. No, not this. Yeah, you better be sure nowadays. It's not like it was in the 80s when I was dating. What's the negative? Right? I don't know. The way Wendy Adelson says sure is very annoying to me. Well, I think everything she says. Patty, I'm on a roll. Well, thank you, Sonny. I'm going to continue. But I thought that was interesting to just count the number of people going, I don't know these people, so I can do that. Okay, please have a seat. I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you. Were discussed with the group earlier today. What do you know about this case? Juror. Well, I know what stuff happened, when it happened, watching the news and stuff, and I was actually working in that neighborhood. So we kind of followed it a little bit, First, they were looking for a white car. Then they were looking for another car, this, that, and the other. And then, just over the years, hearing about it, what happened, what transpired with the family issues and the 2 kids and all that stuff. Court, how are you employed? Juror, I'm self-employed. Court, are you a craftsman? Juror, yes, I'm a handyman. Court, okay, so back in 14, you knew about the case from inception. Have you watched any news reports or listened to anything about the case more recently? Juror, yes, sir. Court, all right. When is the last time you consumed some information about this case? Juror, actually, it was yesterday when they announced that they were going to do the jury thing. So, of course, I was like, got into it and read a bit more about it. And, not thinking at all because I didn't even realize that I had jury duty until I got a text message yesterday afternoon. I really had forgotten. So, the court, you've done nothing wrong. You were under no instructions from the court or anything else based on everything as you know. Do you have an opinion concerning Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence in this matter? Juror, yeah. Court, what is your opinion? Juror, he's guilty. Court, is this opinion firmly entrenched or can you disregard it with the court's instruction? Juror, I don't think so. Court, does the state have any follow-up? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, does the defense? Dubin, does just one question. Have you heard any of the other jurors discussing the case at all? Juror, no. Dubin, even downstairs this morning. Juror, even downstairs this morning. Dubin, thank you, sir. Court, you're excused. Court, not knowing what you're coming into, well, I think, help in that regard. All right, please bring in blank next. Court, good morning. Juror, good morning. Court, I'm going to go through the 5 questions with you I discussed with the group. What do you know about this case? Juror, I don't know anything about it. Court, say that one more time. Juror, I don't know anything about it. Sorry, I'm very anxious right now. Court, no problem. We're going to get through this quickly. Hopefully that will steady your nerves. So you've never read any news reports online, in that newspaper, watch television about this, anything at all. Juror, Court, but that's a negative response. Court, do you have an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror, no. Court, if you were selected as a juror in this case, would you be able to render a verdict that's based solely on the evidence presented in the courtroom? Prospective juror, I hope so. That's what I'm anxious about because, can I? Court, go on, explain, please. Juror, about 5. Oh, goodness, I didn't think it was. About 5 years ago, I was held hostage by a guy he was suspected of murder and he held my family hostage. And then he apparently killed somebody else. And so about 2 years ago, I went to court about it and he wasn't counted as guilty. And there's a part of me that's scared that he'll come back out of prison and things like that. And so I don't like the idea of having to put somebody in prison for murder, but then I don't know if I can say that I wouldn't put somebody in prison for murder just because of. Court, okay, so just to reiterate, you were previously a victim of a crime that happened in the county. Juror, it happened in Thomas County, in Thomasville. Court, okay, and in that process, it left you with strong feelings, either about the criminal justice or participating as a juror in the future. Juror, yeah. Court, all right. Given what your feelings are on this matter with the court's instruction, are you capable of following that instruction to actually serve as a juror? Do you believe you're inappropriate to serve on any juror? Juror, I don't think I would be able to handle it, at least a murder case, if it was like regular civil case or something. Court, state, any follow-up questions? Kappelman, no, Your Honor. Court, Mr. Dubin. Dubin, no. Court, the bailiff will take you out. Poor thing. Poor thing. Oh, my goodness. You know who would be a really good therapist is that judge. He would be a really, really good therapist. He would. He just takes whatever he says and gets completely to the point of the matter. I think I might hire him when he retires. Thomasville is about 12 miles from maybe 20 minutes from Clarn, where Wendy lived. It's not far. It's not far at all. Dubin had no follow-up question. I'm surprised he didn't ask her did anyone talk about it? You've never heard people respond with yeah or uh-huh, and you're from Chicago. Interesting. Okay. Prospective juror. What I've heard on the news and read in the paper. This mouse. Court. Okay. Do you watch the local broadcast every day? Juror. I'm not usually home in time to watch the broadcast every day. Court. All right. So you watch the news in the morning or the late in the evening. Juror. When I've seen it occasionally. It was a long time ago when I saw it on the news and a couple years ago, I think. Court. Do you read the Democrat Daily? Juror. Yes. Court. All right. So since 2014, through the Democrats' reporting, you've been well versed in what's going on in this matter. Juror. I know what I read in the paper. That's all I really know. Court. Okay. Based on what you know from either the newspaper or other news reporting, have you formed an opinion as to Mr. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Juror. No, maybe. I don't think so. It's hard to. Court. 3 answers to unpack there. Juror. Sorry. Court. That's all right. Juror. I followed the case a little bit when it was the other people involved in it, so I kind of understand the parameters, but I haven't seen the case and what's going on in this case. I know what he's I know that there's something out there with some kind of transcript discussion, but that may or may not be admissible, but I know nothing more than that. Court. The reason why this is important for us to know is if you have any opinions or not, specifically as to guilt or innocence, is Mr. Adelson is presumed to be innocent under the law. Juror. Correct. Court. Are you capable of applying the court's instruction that he is, in fact, innocent and the state must demonstrate through evidence that he is guilty? Juror. Yes. Court. Are you capable of disregarding the information that you've learned through either the Democrat or other sources? Juror. Yes. Court. If you're selected as a juror in this matter, could you render a verdict that is based solely on the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom? Juror. Yes. Court. Are you capable of being a fair and impartial juror? Juror. Yes. Court. Is there anything that would prevent you as a matter of hardship from serving on the jury for up to 3 weeks? Juror. No. Court. State. Do you have any follow-up questions? Kapelman. Do you understand that the meaning of the presumption of innocence is that starting point is innocence? Juror. Yes, ma'am. Kapelman. So he's not starting a little bit behind with you. Juror. I don't believe so. I haven't heard enough about the case. 2. Kapelman. Yeah, I think it's okay for him to be behind when you walk in the courthouse today, but when you become a juror, it's a different thing, right? Court. Wait for her to finish the question, please. Dubin. Your Honor, I object to that question. Court. She's trying to properly educate the prospective juror as to the legal subject matter. Kapelman. What I'm saying is, I think it's normal to form opinions based on what you read. You're not anticipated being a juror when you read these things, right? Juror. No. Kapelman. But obviously, we have different standards when we're talking about taking an oath to become a juror in the courtroom. Juror. Yes. Kapelman. We don't convict people for murder based on what we've read in the paper, right? Juror. That's correct. Kapelman. Okay. That's what I'm trying to get. It's hard to unwind what you know. So we just want to know, can you set it aside? Can we have a level playing field with you? And can your verdict be based on the evidence in the courtroom alone? Juror. Yes. Kapelman. Okay. Thank you. Court. Mr. Dubin. Dubin. Good morning. Juror. Good morning. Dubin. How are you? Juror. Fine. Dubin. Are you a little nervous? Juror. A little. So am I. I take something for it, so I might appear calm, but I'm not. Juror. Could you share? Dubin. Trying to get me in trouble. These deputies are looking for a reason. Just joking. For the record. Court. About the sharing. Dubin. About it all. First of all, I can understand why you're nervous. You're in a room full of strangers. I can assure you that there's no judgment being based here at all. Okay? As you can understand, this is a critically important moment in this man's life. So I'm going to ask you to really reflect and search yourself, because I did not notice the hesitation. I did notice the hesitation when the prosecutor asked you, whether or not you could set it aside. And since she stated it, I do think it's an issue if he's starting a little bit behind, and that's where you're coming into the courthouse with, and that's perfectly fine. You feel how you feel. So my question is, tell me what you remember hearing on the news and reading in the paper. Let's start there. Juror. I remember when the law professor was shot. I've lived in Tallahassee a long time, and we were all kind of shocked by it. Dubin. Sure. Juror. I remember 4. I know that. For a long time, there wasn't. Nobody knew anything. Dubin, right. Juror. And then it seemed as if I was reading out of the blue all of a sudden that there were these people that came up from Miami and shot him, and they had those trials. Dubin, right. Juror. And then they talked about whether the family, I guess it was the in-laws, were involved, and whether Dr. Adelson, and I think he's a doctor. First one. Dubin, he is. He's a dentist. Yeah. Juror, was involved at all. And next thing I knew, he was arrested. And then all of a sudden, I get a jury summons and realize that, oh my gosh, that is going to be Dr. Adelson's trial. And that's really, I didn't follow up along with the other trials. I don't know. I know what I know from the newspaper. And, maybe you're hearing some things at the office. I work at a law firm. Dubin, oh, okay. What kind of law firm do you practice? Juror, mostly we do civil bankruptcy. Berger Singerman. So, there's a lot of a little talk about that. A lot of talk last week about the fact they were calling so many jurors. Dubin, so tell me, let's start with the Democrat. The Democrat, you said, read the Democrat daily. Juror, yes. Dubin, and the Democrat has covered the case extensively, right? Juror, yes. Dubin, and the Democrat, your takeaway from the Democrat, isn't it fair to say, is that Mr. Adelson is involved? That's basically the position they've taken, right? Juror, I would say yes, that's the position they've taken. Dubin, okay. So is it fair to say, with all deep respect to the court, it's not about your capability and it's about how you feel? So based on your reading the Democrat, is it fair to say that you do come to the courthouse today based on reading the Democrat daily? And I want you to really think this through, that you do come here today and that your starting point is he was probably involved in some of this. Court, do you need to make his question less compound for you? Dubin, do you understand my question? Juror, I do understand the question. My hesitance to answer is because there seems to be a wide gap between of how much involvement. Dubin, even if you feel like it's a little bit, do you feel like, seems like he was involved with it in some way? Juror, I don't know. Dubin, okay, you said when the judge asked you if you had an opinion, when you said maybe, what was the maybe part of your opinion? Juror, the maybe part of my opinion is that it does look somewhat suspicious that somebody potentially was hired to hit them, and who hired them, and who else would have reason to do that? Dubin, besides Mr. Adelson? Juror, I don't know that Dr. Adelson had reason to do it. I don't know if there were, there is an ex-wife involved. There are parents involved. And if you read the Democrat online and stuff, all of these people kind of come into it. And it's the state's job to come in and say, hey, and put out the timeline and tell us. Dubin, okay. Juror, or prove that. Dubin, tell me about some of the talk that you heard around the office. Juror, mostly right when Professor Markell was shot, because we had students at FSU Law School, but more recently, just that it was going to be a big trial. It was going to take a long time. And nobody seems to know if the state can put in enough to. You make it look very easy. So, but it's not. And there are people out there who just want to see what is there. Dubin. So let me ask you this. Would you have any concern if you came here as a juror and you felt like the state didn't live up to their burden? Would you have any concern facing your colleagues? Juror, no. Dubin, or the community and finding him not guilty? Juror, no. But I have a caveat to that. Dubin, tell me. Juror, I've got some concern that this trial is being taped or court TV'd or whatever, and I truly don't want my face on any kind of media as a juror. Okay. I'm going to let the judge handle this one, Dubin said. Court, as it relates to that, the identities of the jurors will not be released. They're going to be placed on camera. Dubin, are the names of the jurors going to be released, Your Honor? Court, no names or identities. Juror, not even after the trial? Court, after the trial, there may be requests concerning the information as to names, but no addresses or any of that information will be provided. Clerk, Your Honor, if I may, the paperwork that we use is part of public record, and we do scan that in. I redact the addresses and the years of birth, but the names are there and they will be part of the public record. Court, That's what I was referring to. Dubin, but they will be part of the record. Clerk, after. Court, after the trial is over. Dubin, so it will be known, it will be public record that you were a juror. And if I'm reading your body language correctly, does that concern you? Juror, that does concern me. Dubin, tell me why. Juror, because I think that any decision you make as a juror is with the jury. Oh my God, I'm spitting on my microphone. That's the way our American justice system works. And regardless of whether you find guilty or not, hopefully the jury did do its job and weigh the evidence and whatever that defense were offered. And I just don't want that being, ridiculed in any way. I don't want to talk about it if I served on the jury. It's just, Dubin, okay, so that part of it makes you uncomfortable. So would you rather not be a juror? Juror, no, I don't think so. Well, I think it's important to the justice system. You work for a law firm. Dubin, I'm talking about in this case, juror. In this case, I think I would like to do the jury because part of me says this is an interesting case, but part of me is very private and thinks that, it's going to come out and it's going to have repercussions on me personally, and I don't want that. Dubin, okay. Court, final question, Mr. Dubin. Mr. Dubin, my final question is, how do you know the prosecution makes it look easy? Juror, she's got a reputation. She's Georgia Kappelman. She's well known in the community. She's fabulous. So, I don't think she's fabulous from personal. It's just her. She's known in this community as being a fabulous prosecutor. Now that I have that opinion on her, Judge Rashbaum. Judge, may I ask 2 questions? Court, try to make it 1, but go ahead. Rashbaum, they're tied together. Court, go ahead. Rashbaum, so you said that you're a private person in this community. There's a lot of talk about this case. Juror, yes. Rashbaum, would you feel pressure that you could not find Mr. Adelson not guilty, and then that would come out and you would be ridiculed for that? Is that where your pressures come from? Would that come to you mind when you were deliberating? Juror, no. Regardless of which way it goes, I don't really want my name. Oh, they found Dr. Adelson guilty. They found Dr. Adelson guilty. Innocent. I don't care which way it goes. I just really don't want my name released to the public about the fact that I was on this particular jury. Too late. Rashbaum, thank you. Juror, I think you get ridiculed either way. Court, thank you for your candor, ma'am. Oh, ma'am. The bailiff will see you out. Court, any argument from the attorney? Dubin, yeah, I moved to strike the juror for cause. She was palpably nervous and uncomfortable about serving as a juror. She expressed I think there were grave concerns about being involved in the case and the implications it may have on her. And on the basis, I moved to strike. Court, Ms. Kappelman, I object. It's not for cause to be nervous. Court, she was, however, very equivocal as to all her answers on key matters, such as opinion, following the law. Do you want to examine her again as to whatever subject matter you believe she could still be viable jury on? Kappelman, I didn't think she was equivocal, but yes, if reasonable minds are differing on that, I guess we could get her back in here. Dubin, Your Honor, I would like to make my argument on that first based on the current record. I thought that. I know that it's a basis to strike under Florida law to have her come in and have an attempt to rehabilitate her when the state already had an opportunity to ask her questions. She was extraordinarily equivocal. When asked about her opinion, she gave 3 answers: no, maybe, and I don't think so. And when I asked her about it, she did say that she thinks that someone is involved, and she thought that Mr. Adelson, it had to have someone that put these people up to it. I think that when she was asked about her opinion, her ability to remain fair and impartial, there was a reason why this thing was Ms. Kappelman, asked her, it's okay if he's starting a little bit behind, because she expressed that he was starting a little bit behind. It's not okay to be starting a little bit behind. I think that it would be improper to have further rehabilitation of a juror that, consistent with Cop Show, expressed that she isn't sure and there's a reasonable doubt as to whether she can be a fair and impartial juror. The court, before I rule, Ms. Kappelman, are you requesting to have any additional questions of her? Kappelman, no, sir. I just think starting with an opinion when you come from a jury selection is not the test. The test is, can it be set aside? Can you render a verdict based solely on the evidence in this case? And her answers were yes. Court, if it were solely one issue, I would agree with you. However, as the totality of the responses, I'm going to overrule the state's objection. She is excused. Court, please take a seat. I'm going to end on that note. But dude, she liked her some Georgia. And she didn't want her name announced. So in this case, ma'am, I did not announce your name, but it is in the record and you do live in town. And for that, welcome to Florida, because everything is public. It just is. Everything here is public and you just can't get around it. Okay. Sunny. That's funny. I don't know how you forget about jury duty. Of course, I'm the one who wants to be on jury. Like if there were professional jurors, I would want to be on one. Stay low. The summons was lost during your move. That's the story. Yeah, until the sheriff shows up. No, just kidding, Sonny. Just call them. They'll put you back on the list. Judge is trying to show Jubin how to question them. He still hasn't caught on yet. He's very concise and to the point. He takes all that emotion and all the yeah and and just redirects it. And I'm looking forward to Donna's trial. I ain't gonna lie. You'd think they'd bring in some of those delicious sandwiches and salads from Jason's Deli. I have a question. Why do they not feed the jurors? Why did the jurors... Not that they can't leave and walk around, but why does the court not feed the jurors over lunch? Like, why are you not feeding? You get like a lousy $15 a day, and the court, and they're not feeding the jurors. I believe that's true. I believe that is definitely true. The juror sounds like he was referring to the Dolce Vita transcript. That's what I got out of it. I'm like, did Dubin not know all of this was public? Of course he knew. He just acts like he's not the bad guy. He's trying to act like he's not the bad guy. I wonder if they do slip them anything. Let's see. Any questions at hand that step out in large cities? Not to be crude, but it's true. They say they brought in sandwiches after Rashi's length cost, and just seems like a futile STS podcast idea. Singerman Law Firm is next to the obnoxiously huge Morgan & Morgan firm right downtown. That's where this guy works. And they really admire Georgia Kappelman. And again, you have to admit, like, Charlie's sitting there going like this. I can't believe this is happening to me. All this from my sister. So I read something. There was a guy, his last name's Gardner, and he threatened me last week. And it was a Facebook threat. It's because of my Facebook group. I get threats all the time. Nobody will do anything about it. So I just look them up, know where they live, figure out what they look like and what they drive, just in case, right? So this guy has a recent DUI, and he pled no contest recently. He was Jason Jones was the judge. And I was reading the transcript because I was just like, oh, I'm going to read transcripts now. And I was reading the transcript. And what was funny about it, or what I was interested in, and maybe you all know this, is that once a jury, it was Jason Jones, and he said, once the jury is selected, there is no pleas. You can't plead. So if you if you say you're going to go to trial and a jury is selected, you're going to trial. We're not giving you a plead. And we all sit around, and I know we did it for Charlie's trial, and wonder if they're getting a plea. Are they getting a plea? Are they getting a plea? And according to this Gardner's guy, his name's Michael Gardner, and I'm going to say his name because he threatened me. According to this Michael Gardner, and he literally just signed his plea on like 3/28, and he's threatening people on 4/15. And so he has probation for like 6 months. But so Jason Jones, the judge, said there are no pleas once jury is selected. And I just thought, is that true? Because if that's true, we should. Oh, yeah. A couple people already said that. But if that's true, then we shouldn't be sitting around while we're in the courtroom wondering if Charlie's going to take a plea because he really screwed up. They're going to court and they're going to finish the court. No pleas will be provided. So I'll get that. Gardner was. Yeah, but it wasn't the same Gardner. This guy's name is Michael Gardner, and he got a DUI. Let me see if I can find it real quick. What his name was. He threatened me. He threatened my buddy who helps admin, threatened him. Let's see. No, it wasn't there. It must have been in the admin thing. I don't know. But I looked him up. Yeah, last name is Gardner. Let's help make him famous. This is him. So threats are a big deal for this dude. But in the trial, it goes, what? I'm going to make sure nobody can get your address or some nonsense because he didn't get his way. But his name is Michael Gardner. He'd already had a felony, so he couldn't be a juror. But I did find it really being threatened. Oh, I get threatened all the time because I don't allow people to post. So as soon as you tell people no and they're behind a keyboard, they tend to threaten you. I get it constantly. That's why things don't bother me anymore because I'm like, ugh, you're just such a baby. So anyway, he didn't get his way. So he's threatening people. But point going back to Mr. Gardner is that Jason Jones, the judge, said once you get jury selection and the jury is impaneled, there is no plea. And I was like, ooh, baby. That just interested me because we're all sitting there going, blah, waiting in the courtroom. Are they going to get a plea? Is Charlie getting a plea? Will they offer him a plea or any pleas? There's no pleas. Once the jury's impaneled, there is no plea. So I thought that was interesting. What's his Facebook ID? Michael Gardner. It's Gardner. I figured out who he was because there's so many Michael Gardners because of his wife's name. That's how I figured out. So people always ask, like, how do you figure these things out? Because they're married. He's wrecked 2 of her cars. He wrecked one. He got a reckless driving and he had to plea. And then he got this one, DUI. I would love to see Joel struggle through a 24-hour. It would be hilarious. I don't know what that means. He's not a real charmer. I mean, people are stupid. But they're even more stupid for putting their crap in writing. I mean, that's where they're really stupid. And I keep it all forever. I'm not deleting any of that. Oh, a 24-hour podcast. I could do a 24-hour podcast. I stay up to 24 hours all the time. Unfortunately, it is all public information. But when in a Facebook group, so the Facebook group allows people to promote their business. So I've done well here, and I wanted to know, it was twofold. I wanted to know who the best vendors were as a realtor. When I left Keller Williams, which is a real estate brokerage, I wanted to know who the best vendors were. When I was with Keller Williams, we had a list of vendors that were suggested we use, so I used them. So when I left, I'm like, I'm going to spread out. I'm going to find out who the best vendors are. So that's how Living Tallahassee came about. Think of it as like Angie's List, but very local. And then now it's growing. And I thought, well, I'm just going to keep it like this because I can give back to the community that's been pretty good to me. The community has been very nice to me overall, except for people like Michael Gardner. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I do this, living in Tallahassee. I'll show you. Is purely out of love. I only do it out of love. So I manage a lot of Facebook pages, right? But this is the group. So people post, businesses post, and we promote them. And we want people. So there's my Lori page. It's been missing. There's 50, let's say 54,000 people in it. But people post like this is a post for the business. This is a post. But if you're a licensed person in the state of Florida, there's certain licenses, like you have to disclose that you're a licensed individual. So if you're a massage therapist and you're advertising, you have to disclose your license number. If you are a general contractor and you're promoting your business, you have to have your license number advertised. If you are a mechanic on cars, there's a Department of Agriculture numbers. So in this case, this guy wanted to promote his mobile mechanic business. There's a couple problems with that because he just had a DUI, so he can't drive. How can you have a mobile business where you fix other people's cars and change their brakes when you cannot drive a car? Is your wife going to drive you everywhere? You busted up her car. Her insurance has to be like $17,000 a year. I mean, it has to be outrageous. So in this group, I have to follow the state of Florida rules for my self-promotion. So we ask other people to, when they promote themselves, please use the license or advertising rules that the state requires. He didn't like it. He didn't like it at all. How are you a mobile technician on a car when you can't drive? You can't. He's lucky I haven't called his owner of a company. There was an article about Lori. Yes, she's back on the billboards through the end of April. Praise God. I mean, they did get some things. They did get a few tips that I know of. And the mom is back on, she's back on Facebook. She changed her name. It's the same Facebook profile. Let me show you. I keep going off Facebook and going back on, but she's on as a different person. Let's see if she changed it. Oh, I think I got blocked. I think I got blocked, which is a good thing. But she's on as, if you can see it, she's on as this. But I think I got blocked, which is cool. Let's see. Let me see. I'd have blocked me too. I can't I can't. And then I found her girlfriend. Took me a while, but I found the girlfriend. Oh, it's wrong name. My bad. It's Bianca. I thought it was Brandy. Bianca. She didn't block me. So here she is. Bianca S. Gates. This is mommy. So she really hasn't added anything, but like most people say, she hasn't stopped being her. That's her girlfriend. She doesn't even live near her anymore. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm sure I'll find out. Train, bus, 2 transfers, easy with all your tools. Yeah, I guess that is easy. You used to sell at Angie's List? I don't know if she does or not, but so I'm gonna go. I have to go home. It's 10 of 9. It is dark outside, but I'm fine. I am gonna get a weapon for the office though. Thank you for that. The encouragement. Oh, I must have hit it. The next portion of this, I'm going to do Saturday. It's still muted? I bumped it. Oh. Audio is good now. Fair play. Well, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. I will pray to get through the next one. And I just really appreciate you all sticking with me for 3 hours and 30 minutes. Thank you so much. You guys have a great evening. Stay safe. Bye-bye.